Hey, y'all nerd and geek brethren, it's me, CK Helms, and I'm the host of the Good Stuff Podcast, which comes out every Thursday. You might know me from the hit web series Gotham Knights, where I play the Red Hood.
Stay out of my way, please.
What about me, CK? Am I not important?
Yes, Gary, you're important too, but as I told you, you're like a sidekick, not a co-host. But anyways, if you like all nerd and geek-like stuff, then you're gonna like the Good Stuff Podcast. We also talk to local entertainment people. If you want to be on the Good Stuff Podcast, then email us goodstuffpodcast@yahoo.com. Like the Facebook page and listen to us on iTunes and Podbean. Thanks, guys. We'll see ya every Thursday.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast, and this is going to be a good one. I'm excited about this one. We've been doing this for a little over a year now, read a couple of hundred comic books, gone through thousands of pages, watched a shit ton of movies, and this is our Golden Geekery Award. This is going to be the best of 2018. And as always, I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Jerry.
And I'm going to go ahead and preemptively apologize if I sound weird or if I have to check out for a minute. If you've been listening to the past couple of shows, you've heard me sniffling and trying to struggle a little bit. As it turns out, I'm a stubborn asshole who hates doctors, and I've been walking around with pneumonia. And they tried to put your boy in the hospital, but I resisted, and so they let me do outpatient treatment. So the guys are placating me, and they're putting up with my wheeziness. But you may hear me hit my inhaler for a hot second because I've graduated to like the real comic book nerd, and I finally got my inhaler by my childhood dreams.
Proper geek status achieved.
Yeah, long story short, I was driving down 630 the other night, and I saw Caleb running naked in a nurse gown.
Right? Yeah, that's what happened. So
he is now Caleb Wheezy Alexander.
ooh. Can y'all just call me Wheezy? From
No, we're gonna call you
C Wheezy.
No, it's K Wheezy.
K Wheezy. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, all right, guys. How's your week been? I guess before we get into this, everybody doing okay this morning?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm more tired than I thought I was going to be, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, fantastic.
Nice. Well, good, man. Well, let's kind of dive into this a little bit. So what this is, for those of you who are new to the show, we talk about comic books, manga, everything kind of geek-related on the show. And on this show, we reached out to our friends, our listeners. We also teamed up with a local comic book shop, Capel Comics, over in Sherwood, Arkansas, to kind of submit a form and put it out there so you guys listening at home could vote on your favorite books as well, and not just lean on us to give your thing. But we wanted to kind of include everybody in this, and it worked. We got a fair amount of good responses. I'm really happy about it, what we got back. It's a good forum because we're just going to be able to tell you guys about our favorite books. We're also going to be able to go to kind of the larger, I guess, the internet at large, or our listener base, to tell us what they thought. So I'm really excited about this.
For sure.
So we can either do this one of two ways. We can go from like the big to the little, from like the top of our lists and start with the big items first, or we can go from the bottom and work our way up. What do you guys want to do?
I say we just start at the top. And
Start at
work
the
our way
top?
through.
All right, let's do that then. So our first category that we did, and it's kind of a big one, it's our favorite comics writer. Now, there's a ton, right? Like there was a lot of great books that came out this year. So I think what we'll do, just as kind of a format, is we'll start off with, we'll go Jerry, and then we'll work clockwise around the table. So it'll be Jerry, Sean, Craig, me, and then I'll drop the quote-unquote listener vote, internet's vote, which may actually just secretly be Jerry. So
he might be the internet.
Yeah. So my favorite comic book writer, to no one's surprise for this year, for last year, was Donny Cates. The dude, like, for me anyway, I know you guys had read some of his, more independent stuff beforehand, but he just seemingly came out of nowhere and like became one of my instant favorites.
Yeah.
I really love all the work that he's been doing, especially over at Marvel. And I think we've got 2 weeks left, and then Guardians of the Galaxy comes out, and I am so stoked on that.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. My pick, to no surprise to anyone who's listened to this, is Tom King. Tom King has made me read Batman for more than one trade paperback for the first time in a long time. Up until I got put in my hands the War of Jokes and Riddles, it's always been read the 2 Hush trades, read Battle for the Cowl, Death of the Family. This is the little short arcs. I read that War of Jokes and Riddles, and then I got all the other trades, and I've been on it every month that it come out. He's brought new light for me into Batman, and I've never read any of his work before, but now, I'm a super fan of him, to no one's surprise.
Yeah, so I originally had Jeff Lemire on here. He's done some great things this year. Royal City, Black Hammer, Gideon Falls. Just a typical Jeff Lemire year. Then I thought about it, and I switched to Donny Cates as well. I started looking at the books that I'm reading from Donny Cates. Redneck, Venom, Thanos, Baby Teeth, just to name a few. And they're all exceptional books. Every book he's writing right now is an exceptional book. So I went ahead and changed to Donny Cates as well.
Very cool. Well, I picked up your slack a little bit then there, brother. My favorite comics writer of the year was hands down Jeff Lemire from his work in not only just the Black Hammer book, but his crafting of a universe, these multiple titles that came out that tied into it, to Gideon Falls. It was one of my favorite. It's going to come up later. And I wasn't alone in that because the listeners also chose Jeff Lemire.
And it's a good choice.
Nice. He's had a rock star year. I mean, even books that I didn't stick with, like Terrifics. I think is it Ascender, or is that
Descender actually ended this year, and Ascender starts this coming up year.
Yeah,
which I am so pumped up for that.
I've heard amazing things, but in our audience list, I had to go through because they didn't put Jeff Lemire. They put Jeff Lemire, the book he wrote.
Yeah,
and so there's like 5 different columns with all of these different things. So. They loved him. It was great.
It's hard to argue with Jeff Lemire any year as
definitely
comics writer of the year.
I mean, all around though, those are powerhouses.
Yep.
All right, so moving on to the next category: favorite comic artist. The person who puts it down on the page. Jerry, who you got on this one, brother?
I actually picked Andres Sorrento.
Jerry and Craig are overlapping apparently.
Maybe I didn't put him. I got confused because if they're all on a line like that, then that means they were all picked only once, right?
I would think so. Yes.
Okay, so because I saw that and I thought that I put it for Deathbed, but I did not because I'm pretty sure
he wasn't Deathbed. He's done Gideon Falls this year. Deathbed was Rossimo.
Yep.
But I still think I did Daniel Warren Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Murder Falcon.
Yeah. Yeah, but not just that stuff. He's a huge, apparently, anime fucking nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And just following him on Instagram, I've seen, all of he's done Gundam stuff. He's done Akira. Right. He's done Godzilla. Right. He's done My Hero Academia. Like, his art and penciling and everything is fucking fantastic. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
It's hard to argue with.
My pick came from literally one issue of a book, and that was Lee Bermejo from Batman Damned. I did not pick up the first issue, much to my chagrin, because now I need someone to send me that issue. If y'all love us, send me the issue. But I picked up the second book as requested by, I believe Caleb said you need to read this. And I've never wanted to destroy a book so much by cutting out every single panel and framing them.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And don't get me wrong, there's a million other artists who have done more work that I've seen, but I've never absolutely fell in love with after just one issue.
Yeah,
he definitely is my artist of the year.
Yeah, my artist is Andres Sorrentino from Gideon Falls. When this guy broke into the when I first noticed him, let's put it that way, was on Lemire's run of Green Arrow.
Yes.
And at first I was like, I really don't dig this style.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of Jay Lee-ish, but it was,
yeah.
But then I really started digging it. And the more I see it, the way he focuses in on a specific part inside of a panel and then pulls out so you can see that,
focuses on it.
Yeah,
it's photo referential, but it's not done lazily. So
yeah,
so it's you take the photo reference and you take the mechanism of how the photography would work, and then you adapt live art into it. It's stunning.
Well, like,
and then he takes his zoom in things, and I mean, he just does so many things that people, his layouts and all of it.
and that's the amazing thing about him teaming up with Jeff Lemire, because Jeff Lemire does all the crazy paneling shit.
Yeah.
So like with them together, they're just creating like some insane stuff.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's stunning. All right, so my pick for Artist of the Year, we're talking about people who recommended books. I wouldn't have read this one if Sean hadn't recommended it. It's Mac Chatter from Sword Daughter. Some of the most stunning pages I've seen all year. As far as just a penciler goes, some of the best sequential story art I've seen all year. And that's high praise because we've seen a lot of them. And I've never seen this man's work before this book. I don't know what he's worked on. I'm going to try to seek it out. But as far as just pencil work goes,
phenomenal art.
There's nothing that compares that I've seen.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's beautiful cartooning, beautiful storytelling. It's hard to evoke tone with a pencil, but he does.
Yeah.
And so our listeners, you guys, decided that you wanted to throw some love on Francesco Mattina, who had a big year doing mostly cover work. I think he's done some work just mainly in like the DC realm. He's done some Batman covers, some Flash covers, an outstanding artist.
Yeah.
Just killing it on the covers. So not a bad choice, guys. Y'all did good. I like that one. He wasn't even somebody that I was thinking about, but wrongfully so. Should have been.
People have spoken.
They have. They stamped down on it. So yeah, good choice. All right, so let's talk about some colors. Those pretty colors that we love to see in our books.
Okay, Craig. At the same time.
1, 2, 3. Dave Stewart.
Yeah, like that kind of saw that one coming.
Did you just become best friends?
See, spoilers. Sean or Jerry and Craig aren't really two different people.
They become
his work on Black Hammer and Hellboy BPRD 1955.
See, I didn't know he was doing that. He sets the tone for those books.
Yeah, he does a lot of the Magnolia Verse stuff, but he's been killing it on the Black Hammer stuff.
Whenever I started reading Black Hammer, I knew his name looked really familiar, and because I've read a lot of the Hellboy stuff that he's done, and he's just done a great job of setting the tone for the Black Hammer universe.
Absolutely,
yeah.
For his work alone on that, he got colors for me, and there's a lot of great colorists, but.
Who got Sean?
Well, my colorist is the second verse, same as the first. That goes back to Lee Bermejo.
Nice, okay.
In a book called Batman Damned, and by looking at some of the early work you see, it's a lot of dark tones, as Batman books typically are.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I appreciate about his coloring, is that granted, like, the outside scenes are always at night because it's Batman, so it's minimal colors, but when he does pop colors into the pages, he just knows how to use that with shadow and light and everything, because even... Spoilers for issue 2, like with the Harley Quinn reveal, she had the muted colors on her costume, but there was brighter color with her Joker wig she was wearing, stuff like that. It was just effective use of color, and what damn near should be a Frank Miller dark colored book. You know what I mean?
And if I'm not mistaken, he painted those.
Oh yeah,
and so just the line, like the colors were intricately done, and like it makes sense that he's your favorite colorist and your favorite penciler because it was all done in one stroke.
Absolutely.
And it's just integral to that look. And yeah, man, right there with you, dude.
Yep.
So mine is Dave Stewart. For all the reasons that the guys just said: Black Hammer,
Clean
Age of
sweep.
Doom, Doctor Star, and he even did a few issues of Maestros, which is a book by Scrochy that I really am digging.
Maestros is a good book. It was a good book.
He's a workhorse, and he's doing some amazing work. So the listeners actually tied on this one.
Yeah.
It was, and I had the percentages written down. Like I made up this really awesome like a list on my legal pad at home, and my legal pad is still at home, so I don't have the percentages for you guys. But the listeners chose Betty Brettweiser, which is a great choice. She's an outstanding colorist. She did some work on, as far as her bigger books this year, Batman 51 through 53.
Outcast. Yeah,
she did Outcast this year. And then she's got a new OGN called Sarah that she did with Garth Ennis out from TKO right now. She's a stunning colorist.
Absolutely.
You can't take that away from her. She's extremely good. And then the listeners also chose Dave Stewart. So
good job, listeners.
Yeah, just those two names are people I always expect to see on that list, along with maybe Jordy Belair.
Yeah,
just crushing it.
Yep.
All right, so overall, guys, this is the combination of people who craft comics, who was your favorite creator of the year? They can be a person who writes and draws, does whatever. Who's your person? Jerry.
Jeff
Lemire.
You want to move over there and
sit next to my bestie.
Just mold together into a Cronenberg monster.
Yeah, I mean, Donny Cates killed it writing books, but for the reasons that Caleb said, for Jeff Lemire being the writer of the year, because Jeff Lemire does it all. He does books where he's also the artist. Royal City, he did all the artwork on it. That's why I went with Jeff Lemire.
Yeah.
We've said it, I don't know, 100 times in the past 52 episodes, but no one writes the human condition the way Jeff Lemire does. And Royal City will be my trade book at some point.
Yeah.
Very nice. To no one's surprise on this choice, my pick is Eric Larson.
Okay.
Because granted, he's been on the same book for all these years, but when is the last time you heard Savage Dragon getting any news?
This year is the first year for a long time.
Because he's always been mature storytelling, kind of risque at times.
Yeah.
He finally said, fuck it, I'm making the absolute book I want to make. And has gotten attention, whether it's sales or not. I feel like he's finally just making the book he wants, 100% nudity and orgy scenes and everything else that he's wanted to do. And like I said, he actually got people talking about it.
I think the sales actually reflected that, because he did get some bumps in sales, especially that one story arc with that you were so heavy into on the show for a bit. That one really got a lot of bumps.
So yeah, I give it to him this year. He definitely hit his stride.
It's great seeing whether you like the book or not. It's great seeing, like, he's the last of the Image guys who still writes and draws his own book.
Right.
He's it. The other guys are doing their own things, or they're back with Marvel and DC. They're all over the place, but he's the only one who's still, like, sticking with that character from the Image Revolution back in the 90s, and it's incredible. It's really like, it's pleasing. It's pleasing to see.
Oh, definitely.
So mine was Jeff Lemire.
Y'all just want me to leave? Y'all could just have your own little circle jerk. I'll go do my own shit.
I feel like letting the air out of a wet balloon, just like.
No, I mean, it's great because it shows that these guys had great years. And
absolutely.
Here, guys, probably after the next topic, we're all going to start diverging in our own thing.
I doubt that. I'm just going to be the lone wolf with the rest of you.
But here's the deal: it's not just us. So if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, you guys, you're on the same podcast together. You're all talking. You've got similar interests. Of course, you're choosing some of the same people over and over again. It's not just us, because you know what? The listener chose Jeff Lemire too.
Yeah,
the dude is a strong arm in the comics community.
He's a beast.
As Craig said, no one writes a human condition, but the dude is also basically writing a love letter to comics in his work right now, tying back to Golden Age homages to the character tropes that we love to see.
Well, even modern stuff. I mean, he's got the whole thing where they were in the land of Nod, which is the dreaming. I mean, this universe he created in Black Hammer, not to cut you off.
No, you're absolutely right. It's he understands not just the art of comics or the writing of comics. He understands what it can do as a medium, how it can differentiate itself from any other medium, and he works that into every panel, every page. He can convey that to his artists. It's not something that it sits alone in his head, because he can do it if he writes and draws it himself. But he apparently, obviously, from his work he's doing, he can convey that to his artists and get them to kind of replicate not his style, but throw their own style into it and still achieve that goal. Yeah. And it's incredible. The dude is not human. He's Canadian. That's
well, they're all aliens.
Right. The first time I really recognized Jeff Lemire was Trillium.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and the way that book was put together was like no other. But that's going off on a tangent. But this guy, I went back and read everything I could find of his once I read that book.
Nice.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And there's no shortage of work to read. Like the dude is short of Cullen Bunn, I can't think of anybody who is like harder working right now just to put stuff out. All right. So publishers, people who put out the books that we love to read. You've got several to choose from. You've got these, you've got your big two, you've got Image. But as a whole, from Line Wide Works, who's putting out your favorite line? Who's your favorite publisher of the year, Jerry?
I mean, it's kind of surprising because I got on a lot of new indie stuff that I never thought I would get on. But you know what I haven't been on a lot of in a while is Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Like this past year, like Marvel has been fucking killing it, and they've been putting out some of my favorite stuff. You know, it's been really great to get back into that universe and everything, and jump back into some Marvel stuff.
Yes, C.B. Cebulski, once he took over as editor-in-chief, he's really switched some stuff up in the Marvel offices. And the stuff that's coming out, you know, for one reason or another, there for a year or two, it was pretty rough. There was some great stuff coming out, too. It wasn't, you know, if you listen to the internet, everything from Marvel comes out as trash, but the internet is often wrong.
The internet is also trash.
Yes, and in this case they were, but there were some rough books that were coming out. C.B. Cebulski stepped in kind of like a little whirlwind and just without self-aggrandizing, has twisted the right knobs, so to speak, and has got some stuff going in some really, really good directions, which makes sense because he works for so long as a talent scout. So,
Right.
so like he knows what he's looking for. He's got his finger on the pulse of comics,
Right.
And it's showing. So yeah, great choice, Jerry.
I do want to point out that someone for Best Creator did put Ichiro Oda, and it wasn't Sean and I.
It wasn't
Nice.
surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
But good on them. For me this year, like, I've always had my books kind of spread out. Like, but with like Marvel and DC, like I have big Marvel book would probably be Avengers, big DC book would be Batman. I have my Runaways at Marvel. I have Teen Titans on DC. Kind of mirror images of what the main books that I'm really enjoying are. But who has consistently put out a variety of amazing books is got to go to Image Comics.
Yeah.
Just hearing y'all talk about the ones I don't read and the few the spread out that I do read on Image Comics, they're still fucking killing it with just original concepts and just unique works that I've absolutely loved this year.
So I originally had Aftershock Comics written down here because every book they put out is a good book. There's very few books they ever put out that I kind of drop off of or fade away from. But I went back and I really thought about it, and I switched to Marvel as well because of the reasons that Jerry and Caleb already said. I mean, you're talking about Avengers, Immortal Hulk, Miles Morales, Thor, Conan, Captain America, Black Panther, Venom, Thanos, Darth Vader. I mean, and that's just the ones off the top of my head. And those are all all-star books and have been. So they're just killing it this year. Whatever problems they had, for whatever reasons, they seem to have got a handle on it. So
I think a lot of those, you know, I'm not in the industry and I haven't been in those offices, so who knows for sure, but I think a lot of those might have been Axel Alonso problems.
I think so.
And they've got those Axel Alonso problems solved.
Yeah, because they are just killing it right now. I mean,
I'm actually really surprised that you said that. I would have bet money that you went with Aftershock.
I had Aftershock and I changed it. And mainly it came down to, while I love Aftershock, very few of their books are on the top of my...
Right.
They're not the best of this. As a publisher on whole, every book is consistently really, really good, though. So they do a really, really good job for a small publishing company putting out really good books. This year, Marvel just...
swept it.
Really
they
stepped
crushed
up.
it.
They did.
So,
So for me, my favorite publisher of this past year, very easily, hands down for me, was Dark Horse Comics. And not just because of the work that they were doing with Jeff Lemire and that world he was creating, but you know, they had just all kinds of books come out that you just didn't expect to see. And you know, they also had a rough year. So because of the way that things happen with corporate entities, a lot of Dark Horses for the past 20 years, their strong titles got taken away from them.
They lost the Whedonverse.
Yep, they lost the Whedonverse. You know, they've lost Star Wars. They've lost Conan now.
Yeah.
They've lost a lot, and so they're kind of restructuring.
Right.
And they're kind of going in a different direction, and they're doing this a little bit of a creator-owned, a little bit of a corporate-owned, kind of a mashup. and they're putting out some really, really, really great stuff. I mean, you know, when I look at my top books, Sword Daughter, all of the Jeff Lemire stuff, it's all coming from Dark Horse. And
the Magnolia verse has gotten good again this year.
And when you look at the quantity of books that are getting put out, like Marvel's got a huge list of books coming out, and a lot of them are good. And DC the same, and Image the same. But Dark Horse doesn't put out as many books.
Right.
But the books that they are putting out, when I look at the list, I'm just like, oh, like out of 10 books, like 8 of them are just beast mode books.
Right.
Definitely quality over quantity.
Yeah, and they're just blowing it out of the water, and I love to read them.
Well, they seem to, like you said, they seem to be focusing on creators and letting them create their universes within their company. Because you got the Black Hammer universe, you got Magnolia verse, you've got some other things that are going on there. But it's a good way to let creators have this expanded universe that they want to do.
It feels like they're giving them room to breathe.
Yep.
And tell longer stories outside of just, you know, like a lot of the Lemire stuff comes in 4-issue arcs. But if you put all those things together in the past year, you've got almost an omnibus size book of stuff that he's worked on.
Yeah.
Telling these larger stories, and it's incredible. So the listeners also weighed in on this, and yet again we've got another tie. They split right down the middle, and they said DC Comics and Image Comics solidly, and I can't argue with that because great stuff came out of both publishers.
Right.
So good choices, guys. All right, so paper comics aren't the only way to read comics, as we all know. There's a lot of amazing content that's coming out online. There's just a ton. If you look at Instagram, or you can go to these different websites, GoTunes, all kinds of stuff is just blowing up. Webcomics are huge right now. So what is your favorite webcomic of the year, Jerry?
I went with manga. I don't read a whole lot of webcomics. That is put out digitally, so I count it as a webcomic. And I put My Hero Academia, because the stuff that they did in this past year has been amazing.
Okay.
I've really been enjoying everything that they've done.
That's been an amazing run.
Yeah.
That on it. I used to actually read a lot of webcomics back in the day, and just slowly kind of fell off of them, except for one. And it's been a mainstay since I discovered it years and years ago. That's Penny Arcade.
Yeah.
Now they're probably known even more so nowadays that they run a convention called PAX, a huge video game convention. They do live D&D shows, but it all started because the two guys wanted to make a funny comic strip, and it still stays funny, relevant, and a great comic strip altogether. Found online.
Very cool.
Yep, mine is Poorly Drawn Lines by Reza Farazmand. It's animals being sarcastic. How can it not be good? So,
all right, and mine is Little Donnie by Mike Norton. It's a political satire. We all know how I lean politically.
Yeah.
It's not a secret, and this just taps into that, and it makes me laugh every time. We have a president who has a very big footprint on Twitter and likes to use his Twitter for better or worse constantly. And Mike Norton essentially takes his Twitter feed and has turned it into a comic, satirizing his administration. You know, if you lean hard right, you're probably not going to like it, but still comical. I dig it. And I'm not the only one, because the internet spoke too. The listeners, they chose Little Donnie, which I did not expect. I was not expecting that at all. I was thinking something like Happiness and Cyanide or something like that would win. But yeah, Little Donnie won it, and I ain't mad about it. So go check it out. You can go to gocomics.com/Little Donnie. Find it. Mike Norton's a cool dude. It recently got published as kind of like a book. So it's not just on the web anymore. It's fun stuff.
Hell yeah.
Digging it hard. Cracks me up. All right, so best OGN or collected edition.
It's something that I've been wanting for a long time, and Sean and I have talked about it for a long time, and it's the Gantz omnibuses. I'm glad that they finally started doing that. If I had read more of it by the time I voted on this, I would have put it, but that Before the Watchmen omnibus has been so great, and I'm glad that it's a thing. But the Gantz omnibus for me.
Nice. I mentioned it earlier as the reason I got on Batman, so it has to definitely go to the War of Jokes and Riddles.
Nice.
Because that introduced me to Tom King, writing in general, and put me into my love affair that I'm still having with Batman. So
awesome.
Definitely that one.
That's a good one, man.
Mine was Green Lantern Earth 1. Obviously, DC by Gabriel Hardman, Karina Becco, and Jordan Boyd. The Earth One stuff's a lot of fun, and that I think has been my favorite out of the Earth One stuff, other than maybe the Teen Titans, but both of them very good. But Green Lantern came out this year. It was really good.
It's probably one of my favorite covers of the entire year. Like that, just the spaceman outfit was killer. So mine was it's actually a self-encompassing graphic novel that came out this year. It's called Home After Dark by a guy named David Small. It came out from Liverlight. It's kind of a coming-of-age book. So it's the story of a kid, doesn't fit in, he lives in a small California town, and it's basically a treatise on toxic masculinity. The town's masculinity is so toxic, it's literally killing things at this point. And it's just how he survives. It takes place in the 50s and 60s. It's a great book.
So it's just like living in the South.
A little bit, yeah. It's David Small. He's not new to comics. He's written a whole lot of things, and of course I just went blank when I was trying to think of him. It's like he wrote Stitches or something like that.
Yeah.
That novel. So he knows what he's doing. It's a great book. Check it out. You can order it online. They've got it at Barnes and Noble. It's definitely worth picking up.
Snowflake.
Right? Me, yeah. Freaking avalanche. But Sean, you weren't by yourself in the Batman love in the OGN category. The listeners spoke up, and for people who listen to the show and the people who shop at Cabal Comics, they decided that Batman White Knight was their favorite OGN collected edition.
It was amazing.
And it was if you want someone to draw you Batmobiles, Sean Gordon Murphy is the man to go to. The story was great. Overall, the art was phenomenal. You can't argue with that, man.
It's very, very good.
Yeah,
it's on another part of my list.
Yeah, he's an incredible artist and storyteller. So comics aren't just for old grumpy guys like us, right? They're for everybody. They're for kids. We all, I think, got into comics as kids when we were little bitty, learning to read, looking at the pictures and the words and whatnot. So I think we all kind of share the opinion that in order to have a persistent footprint in the media world, comics have got to make their way back to the hands of kids.
Absolutely.
And to do that, you got to have all ages comics, right? They just kind of make sense.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your favorite all ages comics this year, guys?
Well, I kind of realized that after I cast my vote that it's actually not an all ages comic because I voted Middle West, but it's mature title.
Yeah.
So I'm going to agree with whoever put My Hero Academia on here.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that was my pick
Okay.
actually too. Just
I'm with you.
because it's definitely not, you can call it a kid's comic, but I think by the time you hit that level of reading, most kids these days now can handle the subject matter that's going on in it, and it's just Japanese take on American Western heroes. So yeah, My Hero Academia.
Mine was about a title on a series that, if you listen to the internet, is dying, and that's Star Wars. But yet, there's a very popular all-ages kids book out called Star Wars Adventures that's selling really well and is a very good book. And that's because the series is dying. There's no new fans.
There's nothing going on with that.
Yeah. Totally. So, no, Star Wars Adventures by IDW, they've taken and refocused stories on characters in a kids-style format. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So you know how I'm always preaching to you guys and telling you guys about how books about giant robots are amazing and you should read more of them, right? Like that's something
I was going to say, are you channeling Jerry?
I should be. Because my all ages book this year is it's a mech book. It's Mech Cadet U by Greg Pak, Takahishi Mizuwaka. Comes out from Boom Studios, and it's a story of a kid who, in this world, it's kind of like My Hero in a sense, because in this world, the kind of elite of the elite get to go to this school, and they learn to operate these alien mechs that came to the Earth, and they're allowed to fuse with them. Well, your main character, he's not a member of these elite. He's the son of a janitor. He helps clean the school that these kids go to. They bully him. He's treated like he's from the wrong side of the tracks, and in the story he is. But something happens, and he accidentally bonds with one of the mechs.
Awesome.
And it like they have to admit him into the school, and he's treated like an equal. He makes some friends, and it's a learning experience. It's great. Greg Pak's a wonderful writer.
Yeah, Greg Pak is amazing. So.
He can write anything from all ages books to very serious adult stories. But right now, his books are really focusing on getting Asian characters into the larger comics sphere, which is something that's desperately needed, and especially for him. I think he's Korean, so he does focus a lot on Korean characters. I mean, Amadeus Cho, these other characters that he really brings in. And it's just a really lighthearted, fun story. And I slept on this one a little bit at first. I didn't pick up on it at first. And I started hearing more and more about it. And so I picked it up, and just stunning. And Miyazawa's art is great. Like, if you like those old, Sean's love for old Transformers, it's in this book. It's the colors are a little bit more muted. The lines are crisp. They're thin. They're clean. It reminds me of those old stories, and it's well done. It's both a throwback and a throw forward, and it's even if it wasn't an all ages book, it's quality. So sometimes we see all ages book and we're like, oh well, that's just for kids. Nah, dude, you can be a 40, 50, 60-year-old hardened curmudgeon and read this book, and you're not going to realize that you're reading a book that you can absolutely hand to your. I've got nieces. I would hand this book to my niece and not be afraid to let them read it. But you don't feel that way. You don't feel like you're reading down. You just feel like you're reading. And that's what a good all ages book should do.
Right.
And I love it. So, the internet spoke up and they picked one of my other favorites. And I was really glad to see this one on there because, again, like I said, I've got nieces, and this is a series that they absolutely love. It's a series that I funnel them constantly. And the internet decided DC Superhero Girls,
nice.
was it. And if you don't know what that is, maybe you're thinking it's a TV show, and it is. It's a cartoon for kids, but it's also a series of graphic novels. Features the best and brightest of the female DC characters. You've got Wonder Woman, you've got Batgirl, you've got Raven, you've got Harley, and you've got Poison Ivy. All of them that just get in there and they go on these little fun little adventures and do all kinds of things, and it's really refreshing. It's lighthearted. Yeah. The girls love it. I know other kids that love it. Little boys love it. Because it's just a fun set of stories.
Yep.
And
yeah,
you can pick those up just about anywhere.
Yep.
All right. Anthology books that aren't one singular story. They mash a whole lot of them together and you get a bunch of different stories. I love these things. If you look back at 2001 AD, all of these older series, there's a long history of them in comics. And I've been missing them. Yeah. And I'm glad to see that we're getting a little bit of a resurgence. So that makes me happy. So how about you, Jerry? Start us off. What's your favorite anthology?
So I racked my brain on this one, and I couldn't think of one because I couldn't remember what an anthology book was. And I was thinking it's the ones that's I was thinking quarterly books for some reason, and I was like, well, I didn't read any of those, so I left it blank.
Oh,
yeah. So I didn't even. But honestly, if I had one, it would probably have gone to Thanos Legacy.
Okay.
Just because it was done, Donny Cates did it after he finished his Thanos run. So he was already, it's where he announced that he was doing Guardians of the Galaxy. And they had like little short stories of Thanos ranging from like, this is like really serious Thanos to him helping an old lady cross the street and somehow destroying someone's life while doing it. I just really, really enjoyed it. It had a wide range of artists and everything on it, and it was really great. I wish I would have asked you guys what an anthology was so that I could have put it on there. But yeah, I didn't.
We've reached peak Jerry.
Yeah.
He has Jerried Harley that were Jerried before.
Yeah, but that was last year. This is a new year.
New year, new you, buddy.
Yeah.
Woo!
Surprised. Before Watchmen or after?
Before Watchmen.
But that would have probably done.
Well, that was in.
Yeah, that wasn't published this past year, though.
Oh, that's
so,
true.
Yeah, that's been out.
Oh, it has been out a while, hasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, mine is Shiver.
Okay.
From the great Junji Ito. Is while he makes good books that have one consistent story, I personally feel he shines with the short story, the short horror stories. One of my standout ones of that, you can't talk about Junji Ito's story without giving away damn near everything. All I'm going to say is people's heads start floating off like giant balloons. One of the standout stories in that book.
That's the most Junji Ito thing I think anybody's ever said.
And it's terrifying. But yeah, I give it to Junji Ito's Shiver.
Mine is also a Junji Ito book.
Woo!
Frankenstein.
Nice.
Even though the first half of the book was a retelling of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, it had a bunch of different horror stories at the end of it. Yep. It was a very, very good book. This guy is definitely a master of horror, not just in Japan, but in America. His art style, Caleb said it before, mimics some of the greats in American comic books, Bernie Wrightson and that sort of style, really. It's a good book. Go get it. Read it. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Right.
Remember to read from the back to the front, though.
Right to left.
So mine was a book that it's weird to say it was my favorite because it's honestly a book I wish had never been made. But it was Where We Live. It's the book that came out after the Las Vegas shooting. It features a variety of different stories, different artists, some prose, some comics work, some just art. And all the proceeds went to, of course, the families of the shooting. It's a heartbreaking book, just kind of like all the books in this vein are. But it's setting my emotions aside. It's a stunning piece of work.
Yeah,
the craftsmanship that went into these different stories, this collection of kind of all over the place. I mean, you've got stories that put you right there in the midst of the chaos. You've got stories from people who are sitting at home hearing about it on TV. And they're all focused around this central theme, but they're all different in their own little way. And as far as a collected like story set goes, it's good. It's weird to say it's good, but it's good. The internet kind of spoke up with a more traditional anthology book, and one that I haven't read. It's not something that I'm familiar with. I've seen it on the shelf, but it's not something I picked up. It's kind of reminiscent of the 2001 AD books like that, and it's called It Came Out on a Wednesday, and it's from Alternative Comics. It's one of those books that it's $1.50 on the shelf. It comes out, I think, monthly, and it's I think you get 4 different stories or 5 different stories that in each set. It's all done. I want to say it's all black and white. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't read it. Various artists, various writers.
It's kind of a spoof on the comic industry, is what it is. Yeah. Satirical of the comic industry. I know our buddy Matt Trogdon really at least liked it to start.
So it's something I might need to check out in the future. I don't know. These anthology books are fun because in a lot of ways they're how new writers or new artists kind of get their start. It's a good place for them to get their foot in the industry. So I definitely am going to add that to my list of things to at least look at. All right. So favorite team or group comic? Start us off, Jerry.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that there's like half a dozen great teams that were picked for this category.
Right.
Mine's going to have to go to the Avengers. And not just because of the core Avengers team. They have made like 5 or 6 teams in this book. And they're all so fucking great. I love the creativity with all the characters that they pick for each different nation and everything like that for each group. And just pulling characters out of the woodwork, seemingly. It's just been really great. And, I mean, whenever I originally got into this book, because I haven't been on an Avengers book in fucking years, because it always just kind of falls into that, like, well, now we have 5 Avengers teams, and now we're having a big, world-ending event going on, and now you got to collect all of that. So for a while, I tried to stay away from Avengers. And you guys know me; I follow characters a lot, and the one that got me into this was Robbie Reyes, the Ghost Rider, and I'm really enjoying how they're writing him, and they're doing some really creative shit with him. But I've ended up really liking the team as a whole. Especially with what they're doing with She-Hulk as well. It's just been really great. And just seeing those other nations' teams and, just having like that offset of different, like, if you had to make a team out of people from just this country, who would it be? Or, Atlantis, United States has their own team now. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely Avengers.
Yeah, Jason Aaron kills it.
Yeah, Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness are killing Avengers, and I'm in agreement. It's Avengers.
So I kind of side-eyed a little bit when they announced that Ed McGuinness was the one who was doing it, because I was like, okay, I think his art's great, but he's not going to be on the book for more than an arc. Still sticking with it.
Yeah.
Still sticking with it hard, and it's quality.
Yeah, the books, I mean, they just introduced... Yeah, like Jerry said, they're just keep introducing more and more characters without making it feel claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Odin is now counseling Black Panther on how to run the Avengers.
He's Jafar.
it's pretty crazy. So, and it's good. And we had, an issue where Thor got his tooth knocked out by the Hulk. So, I mean, that happened in the Avengers. So
It's true. What happened?
So yeah, Avengers for me. Avengers for Sean.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I can get in a little detail.
I thought we were just commenting on
absolutely
Jerry's.
Avengers.
Okay,
No,
I gotcha.
Avengers, 100% for two major reasons. Second place would definitely be that I'm finally reading a She-Hulk book, and she's actually one of my favorite characters. I've just kind of missed the hype of her runs, and then the last story arcs of her own series, which I hear are good stories, but the art just completely turned me off to wanting to read them. So I'm finally getting a She-Hulk book I can finally read. But number one, and probably the most impressive thing about this run, it made me give a shit about Namor. Because I hate that dude. I've never cared about Namor.
It made me continue to hate Namor.
Well, you still hate him, but you don't I actually care enough to hate him. Because he's never been on my radar. And this made me think, this is a bad motherfucker we all should hate a lot.
You damn right he is. Damn right he is.
Yeah. So yeah, Avengers for me too.
All right, so I took a little bit of a different path.
What?
I stayed in the Marvel family, but I went with Champions.
Yes.
So originally, Mark Waid was on this book with, I want to say, Humberto Ramos. And they kind of carried this book for the first part of the year, and it was okay. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't hitting all the marks. If they had stayed with that team, it probably wouldn't be on my list. I probably would be going with the Avengers. But this year, Jim Zub took over, and he took over with artists like Sean Isaacs and Kevin LeBronda, and they really turned this book around, and they put a lot of heart into it. When I think about my favorite team books, I mean, obviously, if you've listened to the show before, my holy grail team book is Avengers Volume 3. It doesn't get any better than that for me. This book reminds me of that so much. When I think of the character types that are in this, when I think about the troubles that they're going through, the adventures that they're going on, there's so many of these things that just model after that, and it's great work. Sean Isaacs, I said it last year, he's my artist to watch for 2019. I discovered this dude last year, and I forget which issue it was. I was like, man, this is some really good art, and I've never heard of this dude. He continues to crush it, and he's doing a great job just kind of mapping out these characters. The team itself, the heart of what I want Marvel to be. Young, energetic, diverse, adventurous, not scared to explore the rough sections of the real world. You've got characters like Braun who feels my love of the Hulk, but he's not the Hulk anymore. You've got Ironheart, you've got Miss Marvel, Wasp, just all of them. Just fun stuff. The stuff that's going on with Sam right now from Nova, it's just heartbreaking. Right. It's even more so when you think about, this is a kid trying to figure his life out.
Right.
Just crushes it on every mark. I can't. They like I said, we talked about it this past week. They started over. I think that was Jerry's book of the week last week. New numbering, but same feel, and just loved every minute of it. But I am a lonely man on a lonely island with this one because the listeners, you guys, they were in sync with you guys, man. They chose the Avengers, and maybe they're the Earth's mightiest for a reason because they definitely destroyed anybody else that came close as far as the percentages go.
I feel like if I had started reading Champions whenever you first recommended it, it would have been a really, really hard pick, like between those two.
Yeah.
I also feel that if the current Teen Titans run had started earlier and we got more of that would have been a really big contender because it's been fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, that's one I need to pick up. I haven't been reading that one. I should.
That's good.
Or West Coast Avengers, maybe an honorable mention in there.
That
really
one's that one. I think if that one had started earlier and was a longer arc, it might be on my list too. There's a ton of them though. I mean, there's fucking Black Hammer again. Jeff Lemire. Yeah. Talk about team books.
Black Hammer could have been on there.
Yeah, easily, and it's just outside of when we think about teams and superhero teams, we obviously always think about the big two, but there's some great stuff happening outside of that that we've only gotten 2 issues in, but die.
Right.
is a wonderful teen book from Image.
It might be our 2019.
Yeah. There's some great ones.
And I saw 2 people pick Terrifics.
Yeah.
And that was on my list of teen books.
Short list, yeah.
Or short list, yeah. Of teen books. It's been really great.
Yeah. Like we're kind of getting back there. For a while, the solo books were better. For a long time, we're getting back to now. People are having fun with teams again.
Step it up, DC.
Well, there's a certain section of the team books in the Marvel world that I think are shitting the bed hard right now. But
for sure.
we don't want to get into that. Let's get weird for a second. Let's talk about some science fiction. This is one of my favorite genres of comics because I think it's where comics really shine.
Yeah.
They can get into the really weird aspects of what the medium can do. So, what is your favorite science fiction comic, Jerry?
It was a super hard pick for me because I'm on so many science fiction books. But the one that stood out the most, it was beginning to end in last year, had to be Cosmic Ghost Rider. I fucking enjoyed every issue of it. Whenever I first, saw the solicitations for it, I was like, oh, okay, it's just going to be kind of a silly, romp. I mean, you go through some emotions with this book with, Frank kind of being crazy and like first he goes out to murder Thanos as a baby, and then he's like, well, I can't kill something that, isn't inherently evil yet. And then he decides like, I'm going to take him and teach him how to be a good guy. But he's so fucked up at this point that he basically ends up teaching Thanos how to murder. And you get to like these scenes where it's, an older version of Thanos where he created this utopia, but it's really not. It's like a prison city. And he saved Frank Castle's family and everything in the past. And it's got a lot of emotions in it. And Donny Cates absolutely killed it with that series. And I mean, I feel like time travel is like the epitome of science fiction. It's like one of those.
It's also extremely hard to do well.
Yeah.
Or correctly.
And Donny Cates has done a really good job of telling backstories without remaking backstories.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that's pretty great because he's kind of putting his own little time stamp in there, and he's not really negatively affecting anything else.
Well, he's still honoring the creators that came before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm the exact opposite of Jerry. I actually don't do a lot of sci-fi, and my pick might be technically more pulp, but it ended with werewolves on the moon, so I'm gonna call it sci-fi. And that's Deathbed.
Yeah.
Deathbed was the closest I read to sci-fi, and it was amazing from top to bottom. And I said just about an adventure from, like I said, kind of leans more towards pulp the way he was, and just getting chronicled about his life, which ended up going from the Amazons to cults to werewolves on the moon.
Well, and I would argue that the reason it is because of that is because it's a blend of genres, and I think it's purposely done so. So it's got equal parts of pulp, sci-fi, adventure, romance, and
fantasy.
those guys it was a blend of it. So I think you absolutely can call it sci-fi. I think you have to.
Well, then that's why it's my sci-fi.
Damn right it is. Yeah, good pick, dude.
So mine, again, like Jerry, it's so many books. Darth Vader, Venom could go on there. But I ended up choosing Descender.
Yeah.
Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. It ended this year. This is a story about a dystopian kind of future where robots have gained sentience and have all been destroyed. And there's one little robot that's still out there that's connected to the robot world, and everybody's trying to find this robot. Ends up that the robots from this robot world kind of come back and they take all of technology away from Earth.
Ooh.
And which is going to lead to a cinder where now that there's no more technology, the galaxy, the world that's in which they live are all reverting back to magic. So the next run of Cinder is going to be a fantasy series. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so
I've been seeing that solicited. I'm not familiar with Descender. I need to read that.
So best fantasy series of 2019 then.
yeah, probably. I mean, it's Dustin Nguyen and Jeff Lemire,
Calling it now.
Image Books. For those of you that aren't familiar with Dustin Nguyen as an artist, you should be. He's one of the few artists that does watercolors really well in a comic book. There's a lot of them that do artists that do watercolors decently, but he does it extraordinarily well. So
So good.
His art's stunning.
Yeah.
I want to own it. So mine is Wildstorm. That, when I think about the title Wildstorm, you think about the 90s book. You might not necessarily think about science fiction. You think about really 90s team dynamics and stuff like that. But Warren Ellis, the master that he is, he brought this book back this year. Well, actually, I think it got brought back last year, 2017. But he's writing it like it's a science fiction book. There's all kinds of weird, like, Cthulhu monsters in the background. There's all kinds of robotic, science-based things happening. And he's really taken this very, very 90s, I would argue, hyper-masculine, just uber, I don't know how to describe it besides 90s. I'm sure there's better words for it, but he's turned it into something that's more cerebral, more scientific, more science-focused, and maybe even more governmental, black ops, blacklist kind of thing. Yeah. And John Davis Hunt is drawing the shit out of this book. Like, it was really hard for him not to be my artist of the year. Yeah. And if he had worked on more things, I probably would have picked him. But those two are a dynamic team. It's not what I expected this book to be, but I absolutely love it. I mean, you're getting all these great characters that I love from the 90s series. We're fixing to get my two favorites back. We're Midnighter and Apollo are fixing to jump back into this world. I'm ready for it. You're getting Grifter. You're just getting all of these characters in there. It's not the same ones that you have read before, but it is, if that makes any sense. Like, they're still there. They're just different, and it's a little bit cyberpunk for whatever the hell that means. It's a little bit, yeah.
What even is cyberpunk?
It's a little bit
apparently it means you lose an arm and get a cybernetic arm.
Pretty sure that happens. Yeah. And in a year where we got a resurgence of these types of books, Project Superpowers has come back. Yeah. You've got Cyberforce has come back. This one is still the standout, and and I'm a mark for Warren Ellis, and it's gorgeous Warren Ellis storytelling. And again, John Davis Hunt, man.
I think that was also your pick at the mid-year.
Was it? It might have been.
I believe it was.
It's still when I get it, I move it right to I break the alphabet rule that drives Craig insane.
I never break the alphabet rule.
All right, so the internet spoke up, our listeners, and they partially agreed with Craig. They tied again. There was a lot of overlap here. They love Descender. Jeff Lemire and Dustin Wynn, man. They sung its praises, but they also they split it with Black Science from Reminder and Matteo Scalera and Dean White on
colors. It's hard to go wrong with that, choosing that book. It's a superhero science fiction book.
I'm honestly surprised that nobody picked Black Hammer.
Yeah, well,
yeah. But I mean, like the last few issues with like Colonel Weird.
Yeah, the Colonel Weird stuff and the
Dr. Star
stuff would definitely qualify.
Yeah.
But the Black Science and the Descender are both like stuff that probably needs to be on the shelf somewhere. Yeah. Incredible series.
Well, and Black Science is amazingly drawn too. I forget who the artist is off
Matteo
the top of
Scalera.
Yeah, there you go. Just absolutely a beautiful book. Even the backgrounds are just gorgeous in that book.
Again, hopefully I need more money. I need to buy more art. Because I want to own these. I want to see them on my wall. I want to be like the Kingpin and just like look at them.
Right.
So let's get scary for a second. Yeah, this is. I think horror is. I think one of Sean's favorite genres, if I'm not mistaken. So favorite horror fiction.
So Sean's vote counts for 5 votes, right?
A little bit, yeah. Like,
no matter what you say, I'm right.
I'm actually going to stick with my my mid-year review and stick with Infidel.
Okay.
It was fantastic. It was creepy from beginning to end,
and had a social commentary.
Yeah,
you know,
and I really enjoyed it. It creeped me the fuck out.
It was a good book, and it was very creepy.
The way they depicted all the scary shit.
I'm not going to ask you to say their names because I don't think we ever figured out how to say her name. The lady that wrote it, yeah.
But if you're still upset that they can't say your name, feel free to come on the show and fight us about it.
But yeah, it was fantastic. It was kind of hard to do with Gideon Falls being in the running, but at the same time, I don't know. Gideon Falls has hit other notes for me than the creepy, horror. Yeah. So Infidel for me.
It's been on a lot of best of lists this year. So you're not alone in that. I've seen it. I love reading the best of lists, and it's been on almost all of them.
Yeah.
They loved, critics loved this book.
Mm-hmm.
So
Deservedly so.
It's beautifully drawn and beautifully told. Sean, what do you got, buddy?
My answer is just Junji Ito. I already mentioned Shiver, but the Tomy collection came out this last year. Let's say Melting Class. No, actually, that came out this last week. I was about to say the Fragments of Horror I gave you, but regardless, any of the books that he put out this last year and the year before doesn't matter. Junji Ito is the answer to best horror comic.
There you go.
He cannot be beaten in my book.
Well, we don't need any more answers. We're good here.
You're right. Next topic.
I went with Redneck, Image Comics, Donny Cates, and Lissandro Estherren. It's vampires in the South. I don't know what else you need to know. The Texas vampires.
Right.
What else do you need to know about it? I don't know. And it's written by Donny Cates. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It doesn't scare you in the tradition of horror, but with it being vampire based, I throw it in horror anyways. It's more of a family dealing with stuff that just happens to be a vampire family.
it uses the horror genre as a vehicle to go to other places.
Right.
I would say the most traditional horror aspect of it is a grandfather who's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, the grandfather is definitely terrifying.
like legitimately terrifying. Yeah.
I mean, it has some horror elements in it for sure, but I went with that. It was that or probably what Caleb's answer is going to be, which is Gideon Falls.
Yep.
Why would you say it for?
I don't mind. It's Gideon Falls. And I absolutely agree with what Jerry said earlier about this book, that it does hit other notes. Mm-hmm. So I've spent a ridiculous, stupid, unbelievable amount of time over the past 2 months, like weighing in my head if I think this is horror or if it's something else, to the point that I actually had to reach out to an online group and be like, hey, would you guys consider this horror or what? Because I wasn't sure. And I landed on, it is. And it's horror, but again, it hits so many other marks. But in terms of storytelling and cinematic storytelling, in terms of really psychological, claustrophobic, getting into the depths of the human psyche, getting into...
It's a thriller horror.
It really is. And it's a slow beat, but what they are doing with this book is something that I've rarely seen before. And I still think that the art is revolutionary. Yeah. I think it's something different that we haven't seen before. It's blending two different mediums, two different styles of artistic quality into one, and it's got my favorite, just across the board, my favorite creators working on it. They're a beautiful team. I mean, you can't, for my money, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, this book seems boring, because it is slow paced. It's not it's a thriller in the way that,
those people are wrong.
Well, so it depends on what kind of action you like, right? Like, I'm not going to say that I think they're wrong, but they may not necessarily be. Like, some people like really fast paced, get your blood pumping, edge of your seat. That's not this book. This book, you get to sit back. Like, this book asks you to grab a cup of coffee, spend some time with me, and let's think about things for a little bit.
In the movie The Ring, when she's driving through the countryside and kind of having flashes to all the stuff she saw that's what this book is to me. It's like all of that psychological stuff happening while you're riding through the countryside.
Yeah,
the slow burn doesn't work for every fan, even with horror fans, but done right, it's one of the best ways to tell horror.
I think it's great, and it's not knocking people who this isn't their cup of tea. That's just I like.
Craig has spoken.
Craig has put his stamp down. So the listeners chimed in with a pick that just makes my heart swell. It makes me really proud of them, and I don't say that like I'm so proud that the listeners, the internet in general, comics fandom have finally picked up on another book that I'm in love with, and that I've been singing its praises for a hot minute. It's Immortal Hulk. Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, Marguerite Sauvage. From where we're standing right now, this might be my best horror book of 2019. It's certainly been one of my favorite, issue 11 is one of my favorite single issues that I've read in years. So good job, guys. Like that did great work.
And I just want to give an honorable mention. It would have been one of my picks, but you just can't compete with the sheer quantity that Ito is putting out. But Hungry Ghosts, written by the late Anthony Bourdain, was an excellent horror anthology. I just want to give that a shout out.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, there's so many horror books that were good. Cold Spots was fantastic and the start of something huge based on their notes at the end of it. So look for more horror from Colin Bunn next year for sure.
Speaking of horror from Colin Bunn, we were doing the internet thing the other day, and he has never written a horror book for DC or Marvel.
No, it's all independent.
It's all independent stuff. Yeah. Like they have what the fuck are you doing? Like not Colin
Why
Bunn.
Why is
like,
Colin Bunn not writing Swamp Thing or Man Thing?
Like what has happened? Like who
Constantine?
That makes zero sense to me. I'd never thought about it, and it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, put him on a Swamp Thing and see what he does.
Like
with
the closest I can think of that he came is Magneto.
And that was more of an anti-hero book.
Right.
Yeah.
But he threw some horror tropes in there, but just didn't connect. Like you have a tool that works. Why will you not use it? you fools.
But anytime you're talking horror, you've got to throw Colin Bunn's name out there because he is one of the top in the industry at writing comic horror.
All right, let's throw some goblins and elves in this. You ready?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
What is your favorite sword and sorcery comic of 2018?
I'm still sticking with Realm.
Nice.
Yeah. Jeff Lemire. Was it Sean Peck?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's you said Jeff Lemire. It's
Jeremy Hahn.
Jeremy Hahn.
Damn it. Jeremy Hahn.
He's now unfriended you on all social media.
Yeah, I know. I can't say any other names other than Jeremy Hahn now. You're all Jeremy Hahn. Jeff Lemire. Okay. Cool. Yes. Jeremy Hahn. Sean Peck.
Nick Filardi did the colors on that.
Yeah, it's been great. I really like their take on post-apocalyptic world and sword and sorcery. Mm-hmm. Just having that genre there is really cool, and the fact that a lot of their inspiration comes from tabletop games,
right?
D&D and everything like that. I just look forward to seeing where it goes and what they do with it. It's been fantastic.
Very cool.
My pick was going to be no surprise to anybody, but it recently had to get dethroned. Was going to be Rat Queens, which is still a fantastic sword and sorcery book. But I have to give it to Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons. That is the epitome of this whole category, is that book. If you play D&D, no tabletop, no fantasy, this is that love letter, 100%.
Yeah, Jim Zub and team have killed it.
It's still hilarious to me that that's a thing, and it's so good, and I love it so much.
Well, it was definitely on my short list. This is one of those that's right up this is my genre, is sword and sorcery. Conan, if it had been published last year and had a couple issues, would already, as good as it was, would already be. I ended up going with Birthright, which is a Skybound imprint for Image. It's Joshua Williamson and Andre Bresson. It's a story of a kid that gets abducted and taken into this mystical world and returns as a fully grown adult while his brother is only a couple of years older, and his parents are now divorced, as happens sometimes when kids go missing or die. And now he's brought all of this mystical stuff back into our world, and come to find out their grandpa is a mage in that world and actually came to our world to escape that world. So he's the chosen one that was supposed to end all and didn't. He went evil instead, and it's been a fantastic just sword and sorcery type book, and delves into things about magic being evil and all of this sort of stuff, that it's really got a lot of layers in it. It's way up there on my list of best books of the year too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. I still got to read that one, but you've been singing its praises for a little bit, so
yeah, it's a good book.
I'll definitely have to check it out. So I got a high five Jerry on this one. I went with Realm as well. I was going to pick Sword Daughter, but when I stopped to think about it, Sword Daughter is more sword and less sorcery. Like there's a little bit of sorcery in there, but it's more of just a kind of a historical fiction, and I love it. It's great. That's not taken away from it. But when I think about the sorcery and what I think of under the term sword and sorcery, like you have to throw in the magic, you have to throw in the nod at least to D&D.
Well, we came up with this title because fantasy was too all encompassing.
Right, yeah.
So we kind of went sword and sorcery, but we're talking fantasy sword and
Right,
sorcery is
yeah.
what we're talking.
And The Realm is a book that hits all the right marks for me. I think it's got the best parts of an adventure series like The Walking Dead. It's got some great character manifestations. It ties back into work that these guys have done before. Jerry, have you read their kind of anthology book,
Karma.
Bad Karma? Yeah. There is so much that's in The Realm that ties back into Bad Karma that it's ridiculous. It's laced all through there. It's ingenious.
I've noticed a few little Easter eggs and stuff in there.
I'm still convinced that the beauty is what causes the realm to happen.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And I actually said that on Jeremy Hahn's page, and he just liked it and didn't respond. So, I feel like that's
And I honestly think like this year we're gonna have some hard picks because there's a lot of stuff. Like Die just started. I cannot wait to see where that goes.
Oh, I've already
Lollipop Kids.
I've already said it online. Like
Yeah.
I think you need to watch Die because I think Die is going to win. Like not just awards on the small scale, like some small time podcasters are going to think it's awesome. I think Die is going to win like legitimately industry
this is
awards.
going to be a year for fantasy books.
Yes.
For sword and sorcery fantasy books. We've been noticing it as 2018 ended. We talked a lot about everybody seems to be doing a Dungeon Dragons type book. Yes, they are, but there's some that are being done exceptionally well.
Right. And doing new things.
Yeah.
And hey, the listeners agree with Jerry and I because they picked The Realm as well. So, we're in good company there.
It's a great book.
I also want to say that I love the cover with the rhinoceros with the battle pick because that's amazing.
The covers on every one of those books have been pretty amazing. The one with the giant skeletons.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jeremy Hahn's been killing the covers.
All right, guys, put your underwear over your pants. We're going to talk about superheroes.
Already there.
What is your
Done.
favorite superhero comic of 2018?
I went with Avengers.
For all the reasons you said earlier?
Yep. You already heard me talk about it. I mean, I could do it again if you guys want.
No,
Okay.
no, that's okay.
Once is enough, Jerry.
Batman, for all the reasons I've just gone on and on about.
I actually went with Black Hammer, Jeff Lemire, Dean Ormston,
Nice.
and Dave Stewart. Overall, the world that he created for these superheroes. And it really falls into more than just a superhero book, but it is at its core a superhero book.
Nice.
Yeah.
I said Avengers, which is not really surprising.
Oh,
I mean, that's...
Avengers would have, but Batman was the bigger surprise for me. That's the only reason it
Yeah,
went
for
notch
sure.
above Avengers. That's an amazing.
It's just kind of in my wheelhouse. But I did want to say, there's a book out from Dynamite right now called Project Superpowers. It was hard not to pick that book.
Yeah.
Because they're doing some really, really amazing things, and they're using some golden age charlatan tropes, and really making them work for today's world. And it's crisp, it's clean, it's energetic, it's fun.
For sure.
And so I just wanted to throw that one out there. That was almost my pick. Still not quite doing what the Avengers is doing, though. The internet agrees with Sean on this one, and they chose Batman as well.
I love you, internet.
Yeah, can't argue with it, man. It's good stuff.
I mean, honestly, just going back to Batman real quick, it probably would have been, except there was that one story arc in there that was...
The court case arc?
Yeah. Really took me out. I'm back into it full, especially after the last issue, but if not for that one story arc, it probably would have been my favorite superhero of the year.
Just for me personally, like Batman had some of my favorite stories and some of my least favorite. It was
No, there were definitely peaks and valleys.
it was
throughout
weird.
It
was weird.
like I said, it just
it's still great.
For me, it peaked a lot except for that one story arc.
right.
So,
All right, so a lot of the stories we're talking about are these big, ongoing, just mega tales that span months. 50 issues. But one of the great things about comics is you get these little reduced stories, or you get one shots that are incredible. So, what are some of your favorite either miniseries or one shot comics that came out this year?
I'm actually going to change mine from what I originally had it because I've already said Cosmic Ghost Rider, and that's what I put in there. And I'm going to change it to Sparrowhawk. You guys have heard me sing the praises of it. It's by Delilah Dawson, Matthias Bosla, and Miguel Mercado. It's just been fantastic. And I feel like putting it on my list for this for 2018 will be easier than putting it for 19 since it's nearly over. It's only got a couple of months left because I think it's only 5 issues and they have 3 out. But it's just been amazing. I've really liked the world that they created, and the art and panel layout for it has been fantastic.
Mine would definitely be Batman White Knight. I believe it was 6 issues, 8 issues of just a take of flipping Batman and Joker's roles. And what they did with the explanation of why we have a less good Harley Quinn in DC with this was especially amazing for me as an old school Harley fan.
Nice.
Yeah, one of the things they've been doing with the Black Label stuff is spending a lot of time on Harley Quinn and almost trying to get back to the roots.
Every
Harley
single
Quinn.
one of them brings her back to her old days.
Yep.
There's a reason for that.
Because it's so in depth. Like it's
so much deeper character than what she
psychologically fulfilling for the reader to.
Right.
I mean, she's not a 19-year-old girl. She's a goddamn doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, why are you not telling that story?
Right.
Exactly. So White Knight was definitely my pick for a miniseries.
Awesome. Mine was actually a one-shot, and I think I'm probably going to steal Caleb's thunder on this, but it was Lex Luthor, Porky Pig from DC, Mark Russell, Andrew Hennessy, and Bradley Walker. Just a very good comment. As Mark Russell does, great social commentary.
Well, you didn't steal my thunder. You came close.
Okay.
That was on my short list. So I really wasn't sure where we were going to go with this one, so I had one kind of for each. I had a mini series and a one shot. My one shot was right in there with you, though. It was the Green Lantern Huckleberry Hound special.
Oh yeah,
which came out at the same time.
Yeah.
But my mini series was Shirtless Bear Fighter by Sebastian Gerner and Mike Spicer. I fucking loved this book, and not
book.
just because it had a hot buff dude with a beard, but just the story in general. Like, it takes this this really touching orphan story, and it throws it in the woods, it beats it up against Yogi Bear, and it tosses some toilet paper on it. And that's essentially where the story went.
Yeah.
Was that 2018?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. This year,
I thought it was 2017.
No, we talked about it on the show.
2018 has been 10 years long.
Yeah, true. I was wrong.
That's where we're at in life. It's just it's been an entire decade.
Well, I had the same thought about Where We Live was that this year, but then I thought, we've only been doing this a year, and I know we talked about it on the show. So.
This is why I love spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Because I can keep up, because it does feel like it came out early, and it feels like it's been so long ago.
Well, when you do weekly analysis of the industry, it feels like you're doing a long time because you're really paying attention. Hey,
but Mike Spicer's art on Shirtless Bear Fighter is just a lot of fun. It's great cartooning. It's really, really, really emotive. It's an animated style. It's just good stuff, man.
Yeah, it is.
And so that was mine. But the internet and the listeners very, very handedly agree with Sean again. And they chose Batman White Knight. So
thank you, internet.
They loves the bats. So this next category is something that I struggled with because I don't know a lot about it. And it's something that I've developed an affection for over the past year, kind of forcefully so, as Sean and Jerry have just like tumped it down my throat and made me like it.
One of us.
Trying to get the plunger in the manga.
So what's interesting is you won't be able to tell from my personal answer, but I have dived in more to manga, and it's funny because I like a different manga style than you guys do, and we're getting. I think that's great. But so this is our favorite manga of 2018, and so we're gonna go back to Jerry again, buddy. What was yours?
Okay, so before I say mine, which it's going to be obvious, I will say that I feel like it's going to be different this year because now with the Shonen Jump app and everything like that, I have the opportunity to get started on a lot of new series, and there's been some really interesting developments. Like I talked about Chainsaw Man, but I'm not necessarily liking it as much. There's another one that's kind of started up. That's like 3 issues in so far that I'm actually kind of digging, and I'll probably get to that at some point. But my pick for last year would have to be My Hero Academia. Just the wide range of story arcs that they're able to do in this series is really great. It's different in the aspects of One Piece, because in One Piece you do focus on the other characters occasionally, but your main focus is always Luffy. And you can say that with My Hero, but it feels like all the side characters are way more fleshed out. They really do a good job of, and it's kind of funny because that's how I felt about One Piece in accordance to like Naruto and Bleach. but it seems like in My Hero they do it even better.
Right.
Yeah, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll just roll off of that because my pick also is My Hero Academia, and for the reasons you're saying, like now, don't get me wrong, I think this Wano arc that's building in One Piece is probably might make it take it next in 2019 the end of the year.
True.
But My Hero has, while we've gotten plenty into Midoriya's life, we are learning more about his 23 students in his class. Mm-hmm. We've gotten whole arcs just about them doing their training and growing, and it's been amazing from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So yeah, My Hero Academia is my manga of the year as well.
He's got really great fleshed out characters, and not even just the students. The big official superheroes, like the top superheroes and everything, are really well done, and they have their own personalities and backstories that are just as equally important.
I mean, one man is building the Marvel or DC universe as it was with just one person writing it, and you can't help but be impressed.
Right.
A little bit Professor Snape-ish here. It's One Piece always. I feel as Oda's the last couple of chapters here, we're starting to head towards a climax.
Oh yeah.
I feel the end is in sight finally for One Piece, and it just keeps building for me.
No,
so
I mean absolutely. If just for me, just a Whole Cake Island arc has kind of dragged a little bit, and with the variety of characters we're getting in My Hero is the only reason but One Piece is always right there.
Yeah. So it's for me with it being One Piece, it's I've said this before. If Sandman is my favorite comic of all time, One Piece is my second favorite comic of all time, and the fact that we're actually reading it as it's happening, whereas I read Sandman post it being done.
Right.
For me, it just always remains. I mean, I'm not saying something won't come along eventually, but as of right now, it's One Piece.
You're not wrong.
All right, so I went with Frankenstein by Junji Ito. It's my favorite. From the manga that I did read, most of it was not produced this year. This was one of the ones that I did read that was produced this year. Junji Ito is one of my favorite comic artists of all time. He's one of my favorite comic writers of all time at this point. It's stunning work. It's a great It's a great adaptation of a classic.
Absolutely.
And the neat little things he threw in the back of it's really, really fun.
Oh yeah.
So to no one's surprise, I think that they've heard me what little I've talked about it. I don't have a wide swath to really tap into though, but it's coming. It's coming.
Get the lube.
Oh my!
Was not prepared. So the listeners, they agree with you guys again. They chose My Hero. They're loving it. This is a series that is really turning a lot of heads.
Yeah.
So people are really enjoying
it. I would definitely, it's great. And like I said, One Piece will go down in the annals of history as probably the greatest manga series of all time. But I do truly believe that My Hero has that crossover appeal.
Yeah.
Western comic readers can easily jump into My Hero.
Yeah, for sure. Superheroes are really like it's really easy to get Western audiences in it because they know what a superhero is and they're familiar with superheroes. So, it's kind of interesting because
they're not familiar with devil fruit.
Yeah, well,
stretching sandals, man, is a little bit weird to them.
All right, now according to my list, ongoing is next, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, what is your favorite ongoing series of 2018, Jerry?
Caleb's going to die before we get around to him for ongoing.
He's not ongoing right now. Caleb might become a limited series.
Caleb's mini-series is about to get canceled.
Medic!
Is there... Do they call you Dead Rabbits? Are you...
Oh, God. Oh. Lawsuits.
All right, so, favorite ongoing series of this year, to no one's surprise, is going to be Venom. Donny Cates took a character that I didn't give two shits about, and not Venom, Eddie Brock. I've always kind of really been interested in the Venom symbiote, and with the right person, with the right writing, it's fantastic. You all know by now that Flash was my boy, and just to see the suit go back to Eddie Brock, I kind of felt like it was a slap in the face. And then Donny Cates picked it up, and he has done amazing things with him. Like I said earlier, he's been doing that where he's not retconning, he's adding to the history of the character.
Yep.
And it's going so smoothly. And it's really because it seems like his series is on such a high that we're not going to ever have to worry about it like getting canceled or, ending before he sees everything that he wants done to it, come to term, because that was what happened whenever Rick Remender and Cullen Bunn were writing.
Mm-hmm.
Cullen Bunn had so much more stuff planned for Flash, and they just decided to go in a new direction with it. So they had to end his run, and I never got to see the cool shit that Cullen Bunn had planned for the character. So it's going to be really great to see what he does. And who knows, I might have to have a toss-up between Guardians of the Galaxy and Venom for my favorite ongoing Marvel next year.
Very nice. My favorite ongoing, to no one's surprise, is Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, highs and lows abound as any long-running series will have, but this book has continued to just impress, entertain me. Tom King is a fucking writing god.
Yep.
And I say, every new issue makes something happen in me that makes me very happy.
And you've got some of the best artists in the industry working on the book, just from arc after arc after arc.
Absolutely. Hey, this last issue just inspired the next cosplay. Professor Pig 2019, y'all.
So I have Black Hammer down, but I'm thinking about it. Is Black Hammer actually an ongoing? Or is it a bunch of miniseries making an ongoing?
It's an ongoing, because right now they're on Age of Doom, right? Like, so it's a different title. So I think it's like a series of connected maxi. That's a good question.
Yeah,
like he's doing something weird with the format.
Debating it because in my head if I needed to switch or not. I mean, I have Black Hammer down, and maybe I should say the Black Hammer universe. But
yeah.
How many years has Black Hammer been going on? I think that's how you should judge an ongoing. If it's reached so many years, you could be like...
But
then again, you could say that, but Miracle Man's taken forever to come out. So.
I mean, it's
true,
still within its first year.
The Black Hammer title ended at 12. And then it went to Black Hammer Age of Doom. And so it's like a connected series of maxi series. So it's I haven't really thought about that, but it's interesting.
I mean, I can change it.
No, I think it works. So go with it.
I consider it a...
Because it's all connected. It's a connected story,
connected
right?
universe, connected story. So that's what I'm going with. We've sung the praises about Black Hammer this whole show. It's
a complex, connected world where everything is tying into one another. Yeah. So it's just one big long story with different titles on the cover. It's a Jeff Lemire.
Well, because the Quantum Age is actually the main characters that were in the original Black Hammer series. Yeah. So it's the same story.
Yeah, all of it's the same story. Like all of it ties into each other.
If I'm not going to get voted off the island for choosing it, I'll leave it.
You're good.
Okay.
I went with another Jeff Lemire book, Gideon Falls. It's one of my favorite books on the shelf right now, for the reasons we've mentioned.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to talk about some individual publishers real quick as we kind of finalize the comics talk. Best Marvel books of 2018, guys. What you got, Jerry?
I picked Venom again for that one as well. Yep. So I don't feel like I need to talk about that.
Oh, before we move on, the readers, the listeners, they went with Batman for best ongoing.
Yeah.
I almost skipped
people.
So Venom was my favorite Marvel.
Avengers, no doubt. Thor, She-Hulk, smash. Yeah.
My best Marvel book is The Immortal Hulk with Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. It's been my favorite read in Marvel every week or every month or bi-weekly when it comes out. So that's what I'm going with.
My favorite Marvel book has been The Immortal Hulk by Joe Bennett, by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett.
Yeah.
Inked by Rui Jose and colored by Paul Mounts.
Thank you for the rest of the information.
Nope, you're good. I just had it. I had it written down on mine. Because right now Rui Jose is one of my favorite inkers. Yeah. We don't do that category for ours, but
because so many times the pencilers do their own ink, it's sometimes hard to separate that out.
Yeah, killer, we're crushing it. And the internet agrees with us all. The listeners were split on this. They chose The Immortal Hulk and Venom. Well, they didn't agree with you on this one, Sean. You've got enough of their Batman love.
Boo, internet.
Just wait.
Right.
So, all right, best of DC. What are we thinking on this one, guys?
I was really, really tied between either doing Teen Titans or Brimstone. I had to give it to Brimstone. That book does not get enough love.
Justin Jordan
has been knocking it out of the park with that series. I've just really, really been loving it. And it's also Philip Tan
Unfortunately, I think it was canceled. I think all of
the New Age of Heroes stuff.
Uncancel it, because then it can't be my favorite DC ongoing. So, well, it was an ongoing in 2018.
It was.
Craig.
It was an
I'm
ongoing
not saying that you're wrong.
No, I got
it's a fantastic book.
Yeah,
all the New Ages of Hero stuff except for Silencer and Terrifics was canceled.
Yeah. So, yeah, Brimstone was great.
Brimstone's a fantastic.
I've really
book.
been enjoying it. His twist on the brother and sister combo going to each town, seeing particularly how they were fucked up by this. It could have been a horror book too. Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Which Justin Jordan needs to write more horror.
Mm-hmm.
Best DC for me, to no surprise, is Batman.
I wouldn't have guessed.
I know, right? But honestly, I want to say, and granted, when you have a shorter series, it's harder to have any lows. As we mentioned, that Batman has had peaks and valleys. White Knight, though, is probably more standout. It was a perfect story. I loved it from top to bottom.
Cool.
Batman.
Tom
King, killing it all year long. Ups and downs, but he's setting up a beautiful Batman world. As far as that you can set up a beautiful Batman world, it's dark, gritty. Bad things are happening to Bruce all the time, and sometimes he's just barely scraping by.
And the more I read it, the more I realize how many seeds he's planted along the way, and how much stuff ties. Like, there's stuff in this past issue that goes back to like the issues in the 30s.
Well, and the people bitching about 50, which I get it, but it's playing into who Bruce is becoming in the later issues. So.
Absolutely. It got brought back up just in this last issue.
Yeah. So.
And special side note, Kite Man, hell yeah.
Caleb, favorite DC series that's not Batman?
It's Hawkman. And that's what I picked. Venditti and Hitch. I love this series. I think it's doing great things with the historic continuity. Mm-hmm. The often it's been hard to do anything with that character because the continuity is just so
all
weird.
Over the place.
Yeah, it's just
every writer that's had Hawkman's given him a different origin story, and they're finally tying it into one.
Yeah,
and they're doing a beautiful job of it.
They're weaving a wonderful web as far as getting that continuity to make sense. And it's been fun.
It's
and
this is fun.
This is the best Brian Hitch has looked in years.
As far as love the issues with Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Like
it's all over the place. It's really cool. It's ridiculous on some level.
Yeah.
It's just dumb fun comics, and they're doing some really cool stuff. But alas, the listeners they decided to go with Batman. As Sean points his finger to the heavens. All right, so this one is a category that I don't like because it's talking about stuff I don't like. And I don't like doing that very much.
Favorite comic of the year.
Oh, so we do have the one
let's
left?
do our disappointments first, and then we can bring it back.
Okay.
There we go. That's a good idea.
So we called this the Womp 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 category. What comic was the biggest disappointment for you this year?
So for mine, I actually picked a miniseries. There wasn't necessarily a lot of stuff that I didn't like. And if I read the first issue and I wasn't really into it, then I would just not buy the next few issues. But reading Spider-Geddon, I wanted to get all of the tie-ins and everything into it. And I was really excited about one in particular, and it just kind of fell flat. And that was Spider-Force. I love the art in the book. It was very, very nice. And the characters, they were introducing like 3 new characters in this book. And I was really excited about it. But then they tried to do this weird Pulp Fiction thing with the story. And when you're trying to do tie-ins and you have, one is supposed to come out before these books and 2 is supposed to come out after these books and stuff like that, they tried to do a Pulp Fiction-y thing where they were showing you different time frames of when things were happening in the book. And it seemed like a lot of times they weren't really alluding to that happening. I feel like it could have been done way better. Plus, they introduced an Astro Spider character that wasn't Flash Thompson, which didn't really surprise me. It ended up being Jay Jonah's son, which he was an astronaut, so it makes sense. Those were my 2 picks for who that character was. And then he came in and seemingly did nothing and then died. So that story was a bit of a disappointment for me.
Mine is a two-way tie, much like some of our listener polls. That is Kick-Ass and Hit Girl. I've been a big fan of both the series up until this last run. When Millar was writing it, it felt phoned in. Lemire did a very good 3-issue run with Hit Girl, but even he couldn't save it. At this point, I was pulling a Craig and just buying them for the collection, and then I cut them. I just don't care anymore.
If I asked you guys who would be the best person to write Deadpool, most people would say Scotty Young or Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah.
And so I was super excited when Scotty Young was taking over Deadpool.
Yep.
And it fell so flat to me that I mean, I'm still getting the book, but it's trying to tie it into the movies and bring Negasonic Teenage Warhead into it. And
yeah, I don't like books that are dictated by film.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones where I bought issue 1 and I didn't that's the only issue that I read, and I don't think I took it off of my pull list until like 8 or 9 was out, and I was like, just
quit giving it to me.
Yeah.
Why am I still suffering through this?
Exactly.
But yeah, I had high hopes for it, and it just fell flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, he was walking around wearing teddy bears as a costume. And,
yeah. Not what I wanted either. I dropped it after the first issue.
Yeah.
Mine was Batman issue 50.
Yeah.
Just like I don't like comic books that are dictated by what's going on in the films, I don't like comic books that are written by editorial staffs, and that's exactly what issue 50 was. I realize that parts of it play into the long game that Tom King's writing. That's great, but this issue was bad. Just the way it was formatted. I think it had some great art. Like I loved the fact that it was kind of an art book. Like you get all these different pinups. But there was very little story there. The surprise at the end of it did not get the spotlight it deserved. I didn't expect Bat and Cat to get married, but I expected there to be some more of a tangible reason other than just like weird cold feet and somebody like whispered something in Catwoman's ear. She's not the kind of person that would like let somebody like, are you sure you want to do this? Well, maybe I'm not. Like that's not her. Yeah. So I thought it was very contrived. I thought it was very forced. And I still feel like it came down from the editorial offices, and Tom King had to make something that he didn't want to happen work. So that was mine.
I have a honorable mention before we go on.
Okay.
Daredevil 616, which retconned at least 1, maybe 2 story arcs of Daredevil that made it a dream sequence. So you don't really know until Chip Zdarsky gets into he's doing the 5-issue miniseries and then moving into the new Daredevil run, but kind of trying to figure out what really happened and didn't happen. It's just kind of it's lazy writing, as Caleb said. So
absolutely,
yeah, it was just
have
a dream thing.
Sequence. Yeah.
That hasn't worked since what was it, Dallas?
Yeah, and people didn't like it then.
No, it's so the listeners, they also went with Batman number 50, but they were split. They tied, and they said Doomsday Clock as well. I get why. So I don't think there's anything that you can make an argument against the content or the quality that's in the book, but just waiting for the next issue to come out.
Mime and Marionette Man are 2 of the best new characters, though. So
they are. But again, you're getting a story that's supposed to have these grand, large impacts
and it can't
on
come
the
out on
DC,
time.
and it doesn't like things have already happened in the other series before it ever happened to Doomsday Clock. That's the reason behind it. It's just not working, and so I get it, guys. Like,
I do too.
It's definitely one of those ones that I'm even debating just buying all the issues first and then going back and
reading it in a collected form.
Or because at this
one.
point, I almost feel like I have to go back and read all of the issues before I read the new one.
We're up to what, 8 or 9?
I think it's 8.
Yeah, and I have no idea what happened in 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
I mean, other than some
You're
stuff.
right. I couldn't tell you what happened.
I mean, the one that I remember the most is the one where they told Rorschach's backstory and had Mothman in it, because that was
pretty
fucking amazing. But yeah, no, the deadlines, the due dates, and everything will absolutely kill a book.
All right, guys, moving on.
This is it.
This is finally I get to do mine.
Yeah, you've tried it 3 times.
The grand poopah. What is the comic of the year? Miniseries, one shots, ongoings, any publisher. What manga? What really got you this year? What is your one comic?
I mean, it was a really really hard pick between two different ones. It's gonna have to be Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates' Venom, though. The amount of work that they're doing on this book, the detail and the art, the things that Ryan Stegman is doing in the art for Venom has been fantastic. The fact that Donny Cates is almost doing like a Black Hammer thing where like in between certain issues he'll release a one-shot that has to do with other things that are going on outside of what Eddie Brock is doing. It's been great. It's got me back into enjoying the character. I haven't read since Space Knight, heard it was good, haven't gone back to it just yet, but they've actually made me like Eddie Brock, and I hadn't for a long time. Yeah. So Venom for me, for sure.
Yeah. Without a doubt, Batman. Starting this podcast last year, of course, made me want to start investigating even more comics and hearing y'all's thoughts. And there's been a lot of good stuff that came out in 2018, but Batman just hit me like a truck when I read that War of Jokes and Riddles. And it's dived into the very beginning of this run all the way to current. It's still the book when I see it's coming up on the next week's releases. I'm always excited.
Nice.
Tom King has written Batman phenomenally, has brought in characters I never gave a shit about. Kite Man, hell yeah. And just even if it's smaller things, he makes it work. He has a talent for bringing in characters and making you care about them. And I mean, he's doing that even in his other book, Heroes in Crisis, which by the time it wraps up, I'm hoping it might even be one of my top contenders for next year's awards.
Nice.
So I have two answers to this because I didn't know if we meant favorite series or favorite issue.
Okay.
So my favorite series of the year is Immortal Hulk.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
For all the reasons we've already talked about with it.
I love you.
My favorite single issue of a book this year was Green Arrow 45. I know that sounds horrible that I can't. Yeah, Green Arrow 45, which was the funeral for Roy Harper.
Oh, yeah.
It really hit me on so many emotional levels that maybe one of my favorite single issue comics ever.
Yep, and both of those fit in the category. Like I said, this was like was the height of everything. So you pick whatever.
I gotta say, Greg, I'm disappointed. Wasn't Iron Man 600?
It's crazy and it's fantastic and horrible as that book was.
We gotta get one more jab.
We got it. One more.
It was 2018. That was one of our highlights.
Fantastically bad.
That Memorial Day episode sounded like garbage because Caleb wasn't here, but it was a lot of fun.
So mine is, if you've been listening to that whole show, you already know it. It's Gideon Falls. This book just kills it. It is what it is. There's something magic about it, and I'm loving every minute of it. The listeners agreed like 50% with me. They said Gideon Falls. They also said Batman White Knight. They were split right down the middle of it. There were a few other ones that got 1 or 2 votes apiece, but these just racked up the votes.
Right.
I will say favorite single issue. I think it was Gideon Falls either 3 or 4 when they finally go into the barn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, the art, everything that Sorrento did with just the shapes and just repetitive. Oh man, it was just phenomenal.
He's crushed the art on that book all along.
If I had to, just top of my head, single issue, that definitely made me. It's rare when comic books always evoke emotions, but it's rare for me to vocally express my feelings. I can't remember what issue it ended on, but the last issue was Saga. I literally vocally said, "What the fuck?" with Marco. That literally killed me.
All right, so
literally, I'm dead right now.
There you go, Sean.
Somebody he needs CPR as well.
We all died.
You want to borrow my inhaler?
We need Ghostbusters.
All right, so that's it for the comics, but we're going to branch out in this last little part of the show and kind of get outside of comics a little bit. There's entire tangential realms to the geek culture world that we tap into on the show every once in a while. And so we're going to go through this one real fast while we've still got a little bit of time left. And the first category up on this one is our favorite movie of the year. We're talking about some films for a little bit. So, favorite movie, Jerry?
Oh, I mean, you're going to see this one pop up a lot for me. It's got to be Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Into the Spider-Verse was phenomenal. A lot of people are, hollering and yelling about, Infinity War. That's because they haven't seen Spider-Verse yet. And go see it. It's amazing.
It is
it's
great.
fantastic.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Well, because I haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse, Infinity War definitely takes my top movie of the year. It invoked the same feeling the very first Avengers film did back in the day, just seeing everyone together into arguably one of the most perfect comic book films I've ever seen. Special shout out real quick to The Night Comes For Us, my highest viewed movie review, Indonesian martial art film that I think traumatized Jerry a little bit when I showed it to him, and which actually our dual review of it has topped the original one.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah, I went Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. As great as Infinity Wars was, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse it captured everything a comic book does.
It's so good. It's the closest thing I've seen on screen to what a comic can do.
Yeah.
So I went with Black Panther. I like Black Panther better than Infinity War, I think. And that's hard to do, but from a cultural aspect, from a film aspect, just from a dumb fun movie aspect, it was great. Hit all the right marks. The acting was incredible. The directing was incredible. The effects were out of this world. And again, seeing so many people who aren't ordinarily fans of the comic book genre flock to the theaters to see this, to see the cultural impact that it had.
Yeah.
To go to the movie theater and see African American, at least for here, African American people who haven't seen themselves reflected in the superhero genre there, and they're wearing dashikis, they're wearing African garb, and they're proud, and they brought their families and their grandmothers, and just all these people turn it into a cultural phenomenon. Hands down, the biggest impact.
Well, it's one of the same things I love about Spider-Man, with it being Miles Morales centric. It was a lot of black children in there watching the show and talking about it, coming out of it too. So.
Yeah, getting to see finally seeing yourself on the screen where you haven't before. It's wonderful.
Matters.
Absolutely.
And the listeners really like people who turn into dust because they went with Infinity War. Snap. And half of them are gone. All right, so television. There's been a ton of stuff come out on TV, or so I've heard. I don't watch a lot of it, but you guys keep me kind of informed. What was your favorite TV show of 2018?
Now, I watch a lot of Netflix.
Yes, you do.
And... I was going through all their releases and everything this year, and there was one series that I really, really enjoyed. I watched a lot of their original series, and I didn't really talk about it that much this year, but Altered Carbon. Did any of you watch that?
I didn't. Nope.
It was
Roger
based
did.
off of a 2002 book series by Richard Morgan, and it's like heavy sci-fi. Humanity gets to this point where they have these things called sleeves, where they have a disc in the back of their head that collects all of their memories and consciousness and everything. And if something happens to their body, they can just buy a new one. But it's not like a perfect match to their old one. So you have the main character that starts off as Asian, and then whenever you pick back up, he's like in this huge white male body, but it's like souped up, and you find out later on that there's reasons why somebody gave him this body, and he's trying to figure out what happened. If people have, because he basically gets arrested, and whenever you get put on a life sentence, that just means your disc gets put into storage for however long your sentence is. So then you get woken up later on, and they basically solved immortality in the series. But I really enjoyed it. Season 2 has been announced, and I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Nice.
It's been fantastic.
I didn't do my homework, so I really hope this series ended last year, so it'll count. Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah. I think the last season did come out at the beginning of this year.
I think it was in 2018.
Okay, good. I had a backup just in case I didn't do my homework. Star Wars Rebels is one of my favorite Star Wars franchises. You could tell this was written by fans, created by fans who love the franchise and want to tell their own story in a universe where they weren't necessarily constricted by all of the stuff that's gone on in the movies, with enough tie-ins to it and even previous Clone Wars stuff to make an amazing animated show.
Yeah. Mine's Doctor Who.
Nice.
On BBC. Jodie Whittaker's been killing it as the 13th Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Rod Hedrick is going to jump up and down somewhere.
I know,
because he heard that.
He is right now. He doesn't even know why.
He has good taste on
heard
some things.
He felt it in the force.
Not on Slipknot, but on other things he has good taste.
So I went with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I think the show was incredible.
Very good.
Especially the intro where it's got all the art from Robert Hack, I think is who it was. It's like the the motion comic stuff. Just killer. Yeah. I loved it. Great show. Dark themes. Fun stuff. It's what I wanted out of a Sabrina show.
Yeah.
I was very much impressed. I was kind of worried it was going to be really Riverdale, which I like Riverdale, but I don't want Riverdale to be my Sabrina.
Right.
Two different things.
I need to check out that show.
They're both fun.
I've watched some episodes. I had to finish it.
Yeah, chilling adventures. It was a hard pick between those two for me.
And so the listeners were split on this. And this is going to make me really happy to look at your faces. So they also chose Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Oh.
But also a large swath of our listenership really loved Big Bang Theory and chose it to be the second television show of the year.
I'm so disappointed at no.
I'm not. I think that they are absolutely right. It's a fantastic show and they're correct. And it's great. So good picks, guys. Actor and actress who on the screen really, TV, movies, whatever, just kind of really hit home.
Another movie that I didn't really talk about a lot this year that was phenomenal, Black Klansman, with John David Washington in it. It's pretty much him. He's working for the police, and he's kind of doing and it's based off of a true story. He's doing an undercover thing where they, use their phones a lot. He gets put on this line, and he ends up getting a card or a number, or no, I think it's a newspaper solicitation for the KKK, and because of like how he sounds like a white man. He pretty much infiltrates the KKK, and then they use who is the actor's name?
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver ends up playing him, as his human counterpart, while the main character is doing all of the talking and everything for them over the phone. And it was a really powerful movie, and
you should read American Carnage. It's a comic book that's out right now, and it's about a black man that presents as white. He's half black, half white, and he's actually joining a white supremacist group to infiltrate it for the FBI.
Yeah, it was fantastic. If you guys hadn't seen Black Klansman, go check it out.
You're a good thing.
Sure.
For me, it was Pierce Brosnan as Thanos. I mean, we always talk about
Pierce Brosnan. Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin. Wow, I wrote it down wrong on my book. Yes, thank you. For some reason, I get their names flipped all the damn time, more than you would believe. Yes, Josh Brolin as Thanos. He completely owned that part. Like, you wouldn't believe it was a CG creation of him, because they got his facial expressions captured perfectly, and just it was that villain that you hate, but you kind of understand. Like, it was almost Michael B. Jordan for Killmonger for almost the exact same reasons, but I enjoyed Infinity War so much, so I had to go with that.
I did Chris Hemsworth for both Thor and as Billy Lee and Bad Things Happen.
Bad Times
at the El Royale, yeah. And then Jodie Whittaker is the 13th Doctor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I went with Rami Malek from Bohemian Rhapsody. That movie was great. And Rami, his portrayal of Freddie Mercury just blew me out of the water. Like, I forgot I was watching somebody who wasn't Freddie Mercury there for a little bit. So just stunning work. All right, and the internet, the listeners, as it were, chose Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. They loved it. Not a bad choice at all.
A role he was born to play, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into the animated kind of side of things. What was your favorite animated feature this year?
Okay, so I did get confused whenever I read this because I thought it said best anime, and then I just saw animated film because I put that time I got reincarnated as a slime. So I was thinking, my favorite
either
anime.
Or was the point.
Well, it was anime film or animated film.
Or series.
Is it series? Yeah. Was it series?
Anything that doesn't have real life people.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If it was animated film, then it would obviously be Spider-Verse. I thought slime was hilarious. They have so much of that genre in anime right now that it's, I don't know, a lot of it sort of gets glossed over, and I'm really glad that I kind of picked that up. It seems like the ones that have more comedy mixed with action and somewhat serious tones are the best whenever it comes to that. And I've just really loved it from beginning to finish, so much so that I started picking up the manga.
Right. Oh, it's an amazing anime. And my pick is a different one that had the exact same effect. That would be Goblin Slayer. Heard a lot of controversy about the first episode. Finally gave it a watch, and it's that dark, gritty. We've talked about it on the previous episode. Anime that I really get into, and I went out and bought the manga after watching just a few episodes. So yeah, Goblin Slayer, my top anime.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hoping to see that soon.
So I wanted to go with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
But he wants to be edgelord.
Well, no, it's just
Like his 18-year-old
I honestly couldn't remember when I watched it, and so I tried to be true to the thing and only include things I watched or read in 2018.
Yeah.
And I want to say I watched Spider-Man after the first of the year, so I didn't technically see it in 2018. And so I went with The Incredibles 2. But if you just consider what films were made in 2018, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, hands down. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the best films of 2018, not just animated films. Yeah. It's incredible. But I really loved Incredibles 2. The Incredibles, the first one, it's the best Fantastic Four movie they've ever made. The second one it's just as good as the first one. I thought it was equally as great. I loved what they did with the characters. I loved the world that they built. It was entertaining. It's something I can watch with my nieces and my nephew. Something I watch by myself and just really enjoy it. So easy pick for me. Just really fun. Great job on that one. And the internet agreed with me. The fans chose Incredibles 2.
Nice.
Which I didn't. I honestly thought they would go with Spider-Verse, but hey, I'm not going to argue with them.
Right.
Maybe they didn't see it till after January 2. So let's talk about some wrestling.
Yeah.
What is your favorite male wrestler?
Yeah, Jerry.
So Sean, talk about some wrestling.
Jerry, what's your favorite male wrestler?
I'm gonna take a short microphone break and
Okay.
Jerry didn't do his homework.
No, I just left all those blank because I don't
Yeah.
do the wrestling.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like Roddy Piper at all because you love his old movies.
Is Sting still a thing?
Sting is not. He's well retired.
Oh, son of a
He's
bitch.
retired due to injury thanks to Seth Rollins.
He was going to be for each category.
Favorite male wrestler for this year for me was definitely Shinsuke Nakamura. I'll send you how to spell that name later. Best heel turn I've seen in a long time. Wrestling's a standard in wrestling, especially when a good guy goes bad, is the Ric Flair low blow, and he did that to AJ Styles, and that was his way of turning heel. What you haven't seen in a long time is when you then start stalking him week to week in the middle of his matches just to run in and hit him in the nuts. He did that for a month solid. At times lifting him up with the low blow and flipping the man. Where you just stalk a dude to hit him in the groin repeatedly. It was one of the most entertaining heel turns I've ever seen. And you'd have to see his mannerisms and his expressions. Nakamura is a unique wrestler.
What a ball buster.
Exactly. And it was he gets male wrestler of the year because it was one of the best heel turns I've seen in a long time. Craig, did you even feel like that?
I didn't do the wrestling.
Yeah.
All right, so should I just keep going?
No, you're good.
I didn't watch them, so
It's
I
fine.
haven't watched any. So
I thank you for this category.
So I don't watch the wrestling, but I do. We follow it here on the show, and I listen to our buddy Frankie De Jesus's podcast that he does, and they speak about wrestling a lot. It's called The Snarky Geeks. Go check it out. It's really good. And so just in listening to their podcast, one of the names and one of the people I enjoyed following and listening to them talk about over the year was Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And so that's who I went with. He was my favorite pick, and he was the listeners' favorite pick as well. Now, I will say
He's
that
had a hell of a year.
apparently a lot of the listeners are on the boat with Craig and Jerry because out of the listeners, like you can track how many people voted, and like a lot of people just skipped over these.
Yeah.
So and that's understandable because we are basically a comics book podcast.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
may have and even the guys at the comic shop, they just wasn't their thing. But hey, that's cool. That just means that we're closer to being right. It's less diluted with wrong answers.
True.
So yeah, Seth Rollins was our pick. Best female wrestler of the year.
Mine was definitely Asuka. I'll send you the spelling later. She is a Japanese wrestler that came in, had a long run as champ on NXT. And then going into this year, she went up to the main roster and maintained her undefeated streak for a long time. Constantly good performer in the ring and just super talented. And just one of my favorite women wrestlers to watch.
So I went with Ronda Rousey because of just impact. When she came over from MMA, it was huge. Like it made major noise in tabloids everywhere, and it was incredible. It was great watching these giant moves being made by somebody who
who could really actually rip your fucking head off.
And
in
like
real
to her
life.
credit, I can nitpick some things about the way her wrestling style has. She has transitioned beautifully. Her matches are at least always entertaining and good. Like I said, she's just this is her first year. She started last year at WrestleMania, so she can only get better. So
And the listeners threw some love on Becky Lynch.
damn right.
They
Good
dug
pick as well.
the hell out of her, almost unanimously
Right.
on her. So
She made a huge impact towards the end of the last
Yeah.
year. So yeah.
so your favorite pay-per-view of the year?
Doesn't matter, good or bad, it's always the Royal Rumble. That's always been my favorite pay-per-view. Just how you get the countdown to reveal what wrestler's coming next. You usually don't know unless they won the last spot. And it's just every year it's my favorite, good or bad.
All right, mine was All In because Wendy from the Double Page podcast or Double Page
yeah.
Spread played the drums.
She did
on it.
That's a damn good reason to like
Yeah,
it.
so
Your
get to
favorite.
see my buddy on there, which was awesome. And the listeners also went with Royal Rumble.
Nice.
All right, best indie company.
Now, see, indie it's a hard term to use because
Right.
generally it's accepted as anything
I
that's
went
not
with-
WWE.
I went with Beth, not WWE. That's what I assumed.
Yeah, and that's what most people do, even if they're humongous in their region or even country of origin. So technically, though, I have to give it to New Japan Pro Wrestling because
Nice.
it is the biggest company in Japan. WWE is constantly sharking their talent and giving them contracts and just basically trying to make them do what they did over there. Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura, my two picks, came from that company. So New Japan Pro Wrestling.
So I went with Lucha Underground for two. I mean, again, basically just what I'm hearing from as a non-wrestler watcher, what I hear from people outside the WWE. That's one of the things I also heard. Also, Joey Ryan is connected to that, and that man is fucking gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
I want to lay on him like a bearskin rug. It's ridiculous.
You want him to give you the penis plex?
Jesus, I would ride that mustache. But the listeners. Oh, sorry, I got all flustered. The listeners also chose Lucha Underground,
Nice.
so they're really digging it.
Hell yeah.
All right, so now we can tag these two back in.
Yeah.
Done with your rest hold and get back in the
I'm
match.
done. I have a puppy now.
What's your
That's
what's
all
your?
I came here for. Apollo is my only reason for living.
Oh, he's got Craig's little buddy. What's your favorite video game, Jerry?
Honestly, it probably would have been Red Dead had I finished it, but I'm a terrible person and still haven't gotten to it. I did, however, finish Spider-Man,
Nice.
and that game was phenomenal. I love the story in it. You know, sometimes you'll get to the very end of a game and you're like, wow, I just wasted all of my time. But not with Spider-Man. I still haven't even played the DLC, but if it's anywhere as good as the main game was, then yeah, fantastic. I love
Nice.
Spider-Man.
Well, yeah. My game did not come out in 2018, but it was ported to the Switch in 2018, and that is Diablo 3. I have currently put in over 200 hours and have max leveled every single class.
That's the correct answer.
Fucking love Diablo 3.
The correct answer is, have I told you guys about my Lord and Savior Red Dead Redemption 2? Red Dead Redemption 2, Rockstar Games.
I've heard amazing things.
It's by far and away one of the best games I've ever played, let alone just from 2018.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't play a lot of video games in 2018. Just time-wise, I don't have the time to dedicate to it. But the hubby does, and I kind of lived through him because I sat and watched him play the game. He got the Spyro Reignited, the kind of remastered Spyro games.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. It looks great. I can't imagine, I couldn't have ever thought Spyro would look that good.
No,
So
yeah.
that's his pick, and mine. And the listeners chose Red Dead. So
Yeah,
they
The
deserve
went with
listeners
that
are right.
one. So this next category, honestly, I probably think we all probably chose the same thing.
Mhm.
And in hindsight, I might should have just put in parentheses not this thing because we know it, but it is the biggest. So biggest geek news or biggest news of the geek community of 2018.
Yeah, I mean, I already knew that was
Yeah.
going to be there. So I went with something else.
Okay.
My biggest news that I enjoyed the most,
Right.
was the announcement of Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw on Guardians of the Galaxy. Because that was my first foray into them. Both of them was Thanos. And just the fact that I get both of them back onto another really great space book, I'm just amazed.
Nice.
I cannot wait. Yeah.
Mine was the big one. Is Stan Lee's passing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same.
Same for me. And I throw in there Steve Ditko's passing as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
In 2018, and the listeners agreed. Maybe in the future we clarify, but or do something. But I mean, if it's the biggest, it's the biggest, right? Like you don't disqualify something because it's obvious.
It just shows the impact his life had on everybody.
Oh, on the world.
It's a testament to that.
On
Absolutely.
the world.
Yep.
People who haven't ever picked up a comic book were devastated by this.
Right.
All right, so we're collectors. We like our shelf porn, right? What's the biggest geeky collectible, the coolest one from this past year, Jerry?
Easy Gunpla. I've been buying so many models this year, and now that I've gotten Stephanie into it, we have build days as well. While she's in Seattle, they've got a hobby town there, so she'll buy a model and I won't buy one. If we have a free day together, we'll just kind of video chat and build and everything, and it's a good time. And speaking of which, I have a build day after this today. So
very nice. Mine has been the collectible I was hunting down last year was the My Hero Academia pop vinyls. And I finally got the set, except for one glow-in-the-dark All Might.
Nice. For me, it's the new, I think they started actually the previous year, but the Gallery Edition PVC models. I mean, statues. They're affordable and they look fantastic. So that dog whining you hear is Apollo wanting to join the show.
Same page, Craig. Mine was the Diamond Select PVC figures.
Hell yeah.
For $25 to $40, you get these really amazing high definition,
they look
outstanding. They look like resin.
Like resin statues, and
they don't break your bank. They're not $400 a piece.
Exactly.
So they're quality.
They are totally worth it.
And the internet chose pops. They didn't really specify, like you said, my hero pops. They just said pops.
Yeah. I mean, in general, it's all encompassing.
Pops are it's such a big thing right at the moment.
Because I mean, they're affordable, they look cool, and they cover damn near anything you could be interested in.
And they're freaking cute.
Yeah.
They are, right?
I wish they'd started with the Dorbs because they're smaller.
Yeah.
And if I'd started on that path.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
All right. So the last category, what is your favorite podcast or geek channel? Like YouTube geek channel.
Well, I mean, it's obviously the only podcast to listen to. Everyone's favorite 4-man podcast, The Adventure Zone. To no one's surprise.
Well, clearly, it should always and always will be Southern Fried Geekery. But since we shouldn't vote for ourselves.
Yeah.
I will give it to the Game Chasers. I think I mentioned them before on the show. They are my absolute favorite YouTube channel. Whether they're hunting retro games or just talking about their past memories of games, toys, and collectibles. I absolutely love their channel. So
nice.
Mine is Urban Acolyte. It's a YouTube channel. But he's a Star Wars fanatic and tries to find ways to work Jedi life into real life. How you can be a better person from watching Star Wars, basically.
Nice.
Prince Bell is the guy that puts it on. Super cool guy. Good channel. I mean, he stays positive about Star Wars even on the negative stuff. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this one was a tough one for me because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and we have a lot of friends that do podcasts. I mean, I just said Frankie's podcast. Good friend Wendy Freeman does Double Page Spread. Bill, Steve, and Brian are killing it over on Comic Book Bears. But I had to think about the podcast that really brought, like, the reason I know those people is because of another podcast, and it's the 11 O'Clock's Comics podcast. Their forum online is incredible. It's where I met all of those folks. It's really what brought us together as a family. It's something I look forward to every week, 2 or 3 times. When those guys put it out, they're excellent. They're talking about comics. If you want comics commentary outside of what we do, go check them out. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows. I've gotten the privilege of being those guys as friends. Talk to them a few times a week. They check on me when I'm not feeling good. And so they really put a lot of energy and love in their show and their community. And that's what it's all about. We kind of model a lot of what we do here after those guys. Yeah. And it's fun. It's good times. So
Jerry's heart just melted a little.
That's it for our best of 2018, guys. But that's a hell of a list. Those are some good books, some good shows, everything. I had a lot of fun putting this together.
Fun time.
Yeah.
And so we're going to leave it at that. Before we get out of here, though, new comic book day is coming up every Wednesday.
We like to get ahead of ourselves a little bit and tell you guys, give you guys some suggestions of some books that you should go pick up, and we're gonna do that just like this time. It is no different as Jerry struggles to get his phone with the puppy. What are you looking forward to next week, Jerry?
Dark Arc 13. Sorry, I forgot it for half a
Colin
second.
Bunn.
Cullen Bunn, Wando. It's been amazing, and it looks like they found land. Maybe.
Yeah, and it's starting to wrap up. So
next week for me is definitely Middle West #3 from Scotty Young and Jorge Corona. Again, continuing the adventures of what I think we've all dubbed this fucked up Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Mine is an IDW book. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder in Hell.
Ooh.
I mean, Shredder goes to hell. Who doesn't want to read that?
Oh.
And mine, I'm going Marvel, guys. I love Namor.
Mm-hmm.
Invaders is coming out this next week, and I'm so excited.
Nice.
We all knew that would be your book.
I'm super excited. I can't wait.
We should have all just said it before we got to Caleb.
And then I could just not. Yeah. It's being written by Chip Zdarsky, who's really impressed me over the past year. Carlos Magno and Bush Geis are doing the art on it. It looks great. I'm excited. It's got all the original Invaders back together again. And I think that they're actually going up against Namor. Like they're not viewing him as a team member. It's kind of what's going on in the Avengers right now.
Because that's why.
Yeah, the original Torch.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but I knew there was going to be an Invaders book, and I know he was part of it. He was the one of the original Invaders.
He was.
Correct? Yeah. So that's why I was like, maybe we're gonna end up working with him. Like, yeah, okay, yes.
Nah, they're butting heads with him, and that's it. That's that. Go check those out in this next week, guys. Really excited about it.
Who did our listeners say?
They us. Yeah, I forgot to say that, but yeah, we were the pick for best podcast, which is kind of nice because again we paired with the Comic Book Shop, and so I honestly didn't know if we'd win that or not, but they did. So apparently the people listening to this show like this show, and we are both flattered and honored. I'd say that in full honesty, not just throwing shit at the wall. We're flattered and honored that you guys choose to listen to us every week. We put a lot of work in this show. We put a lot of heart in this show, a lot of sweat, energy, and coughs going to this show.
Many coughs.
Well, we're on that.
We'll accept our award at P.O. Box.
While we're on that, there are going to be some minor changes coming to the show.
Yeah.
The format and so forth coming into the next year. We listened to some reviews from some of our listeners out there, and Caleb and I have got together and kind of revamped some things to make it a little bit more streamlined. We hope you guys all enjoy what's coming. If not, nothing's permanent. We can always go back.
Yep.
So
just changing up the format. Some folks have said that they are afraid, like they don't listen to the new shows because of spoilers, because they don't pick up, like they haven't got the books read in the 3 days. We get that, so we're switching things up a little bit to make it a little bit more convenient.
also
make it more
constraints.
Yeah, to make it more convenient for us, because sometimes it's hard for us to get our books read. So we're changing things up a little bit. We'll talk about the new formats next week a little bit once we get all the ironing done and everything smoothed out.
Yep.
Same show, just a little bit of a different sound. So excited about it. We're not firing anyone. I'm not quitting the show. Apollo is the new fifth chair. But yeah, so good things are happening. But guys, if you have liked what you heard, and as always, we hope you have, we invite you to go on iTunes and leave us a little rating and review, or wherever you find your podcast, if they give you that option. It lets us know how we're doing. It also lets other people know that there might be something quality worth listening to. It gives a little bit of a leg up, and it lets us kind of judge how we're doing. You can come hang out with us on our Facebook page, which is soon to be turning into a Facebook group. That's one of the big changes we're making. One thing we want is you guys to be able to post things that you find interesting, and for the community, the Southern Fried family, to be able to see that and comment on it and make it part of the
interact together.
Yeah, talk to each other, not just us. But we're on Instagram and Facebook. We're at SFG Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot us an email. We're southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. If nothing else, that was the best of 2018. We are looking forward to the best of 2019, and we're looking forward to talking about it with you guys every week right here on Southern Fried Geekery. Go forth and love some comics.
Yeah. Woo! Oh, it's a new year. I don't do that anymore.
Bastard.
Yeah, he literally did that on the first episode.